So I was a badminton player back then. Whereas UPSC के 12 लाख 13 लाख लोग दे रहे हैं, उसमें 100 सीट है. तो
IIM में भी पढ़ाई नहीं करी तुमने, वहाँ पे मस्ती कर रहे थे.
there's a new king of revenue, Tata Motors. मैंने जैसे ये बात बोली ना कि मैं वेब शो का मार्केटिंग प्लान बना रहा हूँ, सोशल मीडिया पे कैसे करना है वो तो बस कंपनीज को बेवकूफ बनाने का तरीका है. तो IIM कैलकटा में 1 करोड़ का पैकेज होता है. I didn't get it.
Welcome to the podcast, Anindya. You know, anytime I Google your name, you come up as the guy who got 1 crore from IIM Calcutta right out of the campus. I know there's an interesting story behind that we'll get to as we get along. The more interesting thing that I know about you is that you're part of Tata Administrative Services, which is modeled after the Indian Administrative Services. I think a lot of people don't know about Tata Administrative Services. So that'll be something I think a lot of people are very interested to hear about. So welcome to the podcast and let's have a good conversation.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the invite.
You're welcome, Anindya. To start with, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood? Which city did you grow up in and how did childhood look like?
So I grew up mostly in Delhi, although I traveled pretty frequently to Bangalore. But that was pretty much it. Delhi was my hometown, and my dad's from Manipur, my mom was from Bihar. But they were both in DU, that's how they met. And that's how we ended up being based out of Delhi. Post that, my schooling was also in Delhi. My UG was also in Delhi. And I think IIM Calcutta was the first time that I ventured out of Delhi for like a longer stay. And that's like my brief.
Yeah. So very interesting. You said that your dad is from Manipur. Now I can put your facial genetics lineage, you know. And you said you first ventured out of Delhi when you got into IIM Calcutta. But how come you didn't end up visiting Manipur very often?
Oh, I did visit a couple of times, but most of my family there had shifted out of Manipur. So, which is why it wasn't very often. I visited my mom's side far more often, which was they're based out of Patna in Bihar.
So you grew up in Delhi. Tell us more about, like, was it a middle-class family? Was it upper middle-class family? Like you had everything taken care of? Or were you someone who had to watch how much you spent? How was it growing up?
Oh, I would say it was fairly middle-class. Both my parents were into teaching. And so it wasn't, we weren't living it, so to speak. But I would still say that as compared to a lot of other people I know are still taken care of. So I wouldn't quite say, okay, I had to watch my expenses a lot. But then again, I was raised in a way where I don't think I had really, high taste. So till now, like I don't spend a lot. Like most of my spending it's mostly traveling. That's the only thing I spend on. And back when I was still in school, I wasn't traveling that much. So I didn't have any other areas of expenditure.
So Anindya, you said both your parents were teachers. Were they school teachers, primary, secondary, or were they university teachers?
Yes, university.
College professors kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What subjects were they doing?
So my dad was doing animation and multimedia. He still is. My mom was doing international law.
Wow. That's like a huge spread, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what are you doing? What did you graduate in?
So I did my UG in political science.
Okay. So international law, political science is a bit closer. We'll get to that.
My mom's bachelor's was ball science.
Right. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so where did you go to college in Delhi?
I went to Ashoka University, so it's on the border of Haryana and Delhi. That's where I did my undergraduate.
So I've heard a lot about Ashoka University. Tell me more about it. Kaisi hai? How is it? It's a private school, correct?
Yeah, it's a private college. Yeah. So about Ashoka, it's a very unique setup in the sense, so they call themselves the liberal arts college. However, the degree we get is not BA in liberal arts, it's a BA or BSc in whatever field we choose. What makes it unique is the way we can choose our major. So for example, if I'm coming in with an arts background from my school, I don't necessarily need to stick to it. So I can do a BSc physics there if I want to. They give us that freedom as long as I can cope with it. Also, we can change our majors. Now, for example, I could have a political science major but a minor in physics, or a computer science major and a minor in English. So that mix and match freedom is there. And most of the faculty are either non-Indian or Indians who have been educated abroad. Now, while I don't say that as a qualifying factor for quality, but that's how the way they've set up the institute is that it doesn't, like, it's not similar to most of the traditional Indian colleges that we have. So a lot more freedom. It's a residential program and a lot more freedom, both with academics and with social life. So that's how it's set up.
And what made you choose to go to Ashoka and not to Delhi University?
So a couple of reasons. One was, of course, I was attracted to its model of education. I wanted to try it out. My cousin was studying there, and she had a lot of good things to say about it. So that's one. That's what she introduced me to the university. The second thing was that since I was playing, so I was a badminton player back then, and for me that was like my main career. Ashoka would allow me to explore that while being in touch with my academics, whereas other colleges like say DU, most colleges have an attendance system where a certain percentage of attendance is compulsory, which makes it hard to balance it with sports.
Okay, so things have changed now because when I was in Delhi University, I used to be a hostelite at IIM College, and one of the advantages of being a hostelite was we knew all the admin staff because हम लोग वही रहते थे शाम को भी रात को भी और कॉलेज used to get over at 1:32 पर अब जो राम सिंह काम कर रहा है एडमिन ऑफिस में उसके संग हम ही लोग विलापंती कर रहे हैं 5 बजे क्योंकि उसको घर जाना होता था 5 बजे. So I think in first year I attended like 12 classes. In second year I reduced it to 8 classes, and in third year I went to like 6 classes. So things have changed in Delhi University now. I think the attendance is more compulsory now.
No, so for some colleges I think still before. SRTC I'm not sure about, but I know LSR and Hansraj still have like a lenient attendance model. I was targeting Stephens, and they're very strict with attendance. It was between that and Ashoka for me, and then I ended up choosing Ashoka.
You actually got admitted to Stephens?
Yeah, sports quota. My 10th and 12th grades were horrible, so sports quota all the way.
Okay. So tell me, so sports quota, did you play for the state or did you play for the Union Territory of Delhi?
And
yeah,
so badminton that you mentioned.
Yeah, badminton. Yeah. So yeah, I was representing Delhi, and then the All India University. Now at Halo India, there we would represent our colleges.
And I hear that in Olympics, India is doing good in badminton this year, right?
And they're doing all right, and they do okay every year, every Olympics.
Yeah, badminton is one sport where we do better than other sports.
So I think वो PV सिंधु पे सबके वो hopes टिके हुए हैं कि शायद कोई medal मिलेगा, gold, silver, bronze, depending on the luck of the draw.
So how is the sports infrastructure in India? Do you think you like people doing sports to get enough support?
It's good now. Back when I was playing, especially during my schooling years, it wasn't that great. It's become way better now, especially with the advent of Halo India, and there's a bunch of other sponsorships. There's a bunch of other academies that have opened up. But back then, there used to be a dominance of mostly 2 academies, which was Gopichand and Prakash Padukone. Now you see like large-scale academies in almost every state. Or if not other academies, Gopichand has opened branches across the country. So now it's there. The accessibility factor is there. But badminton is still an expensive sport to keep up with if you don't have a sponsorship. So to give you an example, a feather shuttle, like a shuttlecock ka ek jo dabba hota hai, one team, that costs somewhere around 1,400. And if you're playing twice a day, you'll probably use at least 3/4, if not the entire. So not a lot of people can afford.
One day you will use 3-4 tubes?
No, one tube. 3/4 or one entire tube.
Oh, okay,
so
one tube in a day. Oh wow.
One tube in a day तो हो ही जाएगा.
कौन सी मूवी थी वो परिणीता वाली which had that kind of biographical movie on badminton. I think that was the movie Saina, which I think Parinita Chopra played as Saina, and they showed that whole cost of playing badminton. Is that right, Anindya?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the movie. मैंने तो नहीं देखी वो movie, but it is a costly sport because 1,400. If you're still think 1,000 a day can be shuttle views, that's 30,000 a month. Then on top of that, you have coaching fees, which are usually if you're playing 2 sessions a day, morning, evening, so they'll take at least 8 to 10K. So that हो गया उसका 40 हो गया. Then there's your other expenses like or racket expenses also not exactly one time because the better you start playing, your rackets will go frequently. So like usually the top range rackets they start from 8K, and you can expect to use like 2 rackets a year. Like you spend at least 2 rackets a year. So that's another cost. फिर उसके बाद traveling का वगैरह जितना भी है. Tournaments के लिए तो going to all India tournaments में always different locations. So traveling, accommodation. Until you have gotten a sponsorship from either a company or your state, and state sponsorship happens only if you win your state level tournament. इसमें तब तक में तो खर्चा काफी रहता है. So there's a lot of people who end up dropping out because of the expenses a lot.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And
And what level did you play with, Anindya?
I played at the national.
Nationals. And did you drop out because of cost or some other reason?
I did manage to get a sponsorship early on, so then cost wasn't a big factor. But I got injured in 2020, which is why I then ventured towards CAT and MBA. But now, पढ़ाई लिखाई से कोई रिश्ता नहीं था मेरा.
That's the whole thing about sport, isn't it? So I did what I hear, and some close people who are still playing sport is people say that Virat Kohli earns X millions and so some other sport person earns so many millions, but the risk level, because you can get injured anytime and that's the end of your career, which is not so in a corporate career. If you fall sick, yes, you'll come back. You'll come back in 1 month. You'll come back in 2 weeks if you fall sick. But in a sport, that's the end of your career. That's it.
Fair. But I see it. I mean, I agree and disagree with you in one sense. Of course, that injury risk is there in sports. But like you could say that for any field ki kabhi bhi kuch bhi ho sakta hai. Also, like if you look at the corporate wala side also. So there's very few people who actually end up making it to the top. Very few people who actually end up making it to a good B school. So the risk factor is always there, and how physical injury is one thing. But a lot of players that I know, I mean, they've dealt with injuries, they've come back and done even better than before. So it depends on the scale of the injury, the type of the injury. So my injury was such that even with a procedure, it couldn't be healed. I got a cartilage tear. So cartilage tear means, in my shoulder. So that is pretty much it up. But it's not that common. Mostly, like the common types of injuries you would see is ligament tear or ankle dislocation, something of that sort. I mean, those heal. 6 months to 8 months, you can come back.
Right. Hey, how did the cartilage tear happen? Did that happen just while you were playing?
Yeah, it happened during training. And then uske baad, for a few months, I was in limbo where like I was going to a bunch of different doctors. Everybody had something else to say. Some were saying he ho jayega, some were saying nahi hoga. But then after the procedures and after all the visits, then it was concluded that okay, this is not going to work out because I realized I can't rotate my shoulder fully. So while I don't have any problems in my day-to-day, I can still work out, I can still go to the gym and everything. But if I can't rotate it, I can't play badminton professionally. So then I think this happened around like February of 2020, then which was my last year of my UG. So then my parents said, okay, UPSC. Then I saw UPSC ka syllabus, which was basically anything under the sun. So and beyond, sun and beyond actually. So then वो syllabus देखने के बाद I found कि CAT का syllabus काफी अच्छा है.
So that's the question I want to ask you. Did you take the easy way out? I mean, both your parents, of course, UPSC would be the way to go.
I mean, I looked at the syllabus, then I looked at the selection base and everything, and I came to the conclusion that even if I work hard, this is still too much of a lucky draw as compared to CAT. If CAT mein, you can still say, okay, we have 1.5 lakh applicants, and if you score 0 in the test, you get 50%. So that's a risk I'm willing to take. Essentially, I'm competing against 50,000 people. Whereas UPSC के 12 lakh 13 lakh लोग दे रहे हैं, उसमें 100 सीट हैं. Then I know for sure there's at least 100 people who are way smarter than I am. So I was not too convinced there. My parents are my mother still wants me to give UPSC. Yeah, they do. Ek bari pad lo.
I can understand that. And you know, if she is watching this, there are a lot of IIM graduates who actually give UPSC after that. Some of them have come on our show, and some of them will come on our show in the near future. But if your mom is watching, then she can keep pestering you for the UPSC. Let's move on. So, फिर क्या किया?
My sisters, younger sisters, she graduated from National Law School. She got a really good job after that. But I still tell her, UPSC they were there though. Because I think the IAS officers in our country, they just have so much impact. I think they have much larger impact than MBAs do.
No, fair enough. I agree with you there. At that point, when I was choosing between UPSC and CAT, it was more of I was already in a state of panic. Yes, badminton nahi hai, to abhi padhai to kyun nahi hai. So what do I do now? So I was trying to optimize, okay, where do I have the highest chances of getting something? So that's how that decision happened. And now I think I'm too lazy for it, but my mom manages to convince me. Okay,
so in 2020 March, when you have the injury, and your university was ending in April, correct? Because April, May, India universities end.
Oh, no. So my university was ending in 2021. So it was my last year. Last year start ho gaya tha, but I graduated in April 21.
Okay, you graduated in April 21. And did you write your CAT exams in 2020 or in 2021?
2020. Last year of my UG. Usi mein I gave, and then 2021 April I graduated. 2021 I joined IIM Calcutta.
So you had your injury in March, and the CAT is usually in November or December. Is that right?
Yeah, November.
So when did you start preparing? CAT के लिए कितना time दिया? Was it all of these 10 months or was it like part of it? And कैसे किया?
So around वही March के time पे, like February ending आसपास injury हुई, then 2 months तो मैं इधर उधर भाग रहा था कि ठीक हो जाएगा. Then so April end was when I knew कि okay, it's not happening. तो May तक फिर वो UPSC versus CAT का चल रहा था debate. So May, I would say end of May से start किया, तो June, July, August, September, October, 6 months, 5.5, 6 months.
So 5.5, 6 months you prepared for CAT. कैसे किया? खुद prepare किया? कुछ वो आजकल वो IMS नहीं, हमारे टाइम पे भी होते थे IMS, career launcher. I am sure आजकल तो apps हो गए हैं. So how?
Now there's so many. There's Time, IMF, Career Launcher, Elite Grid. There's a huge variety to choose from, and they give you all sorts of merchandise also. T-shirt, pura bag देते हैं. For me, what I did was I've had a very bad experience with coaching in my 11th grade. So then उसके बाद से मेरा ये था कि coaching तो लेंगे. As a bad experience था, उससे I felt that it was useless at that point. So I had this bias against coaching कि I might as well study on my own. So how the CAT thing happened actually was interesting. My roommate in Ashoka was giving CAT. So he was the one who told me about CAT as a career option, because my parents there's no one in my family who has done an MBA, and they're all either into academics or they're doctors or they're civil servants. These are the three things that happen in my family. So MBA वाला कोई था ही नहीं. My roommate was giving CAT. He informed me about IIM क्या होते हैं, क्या fields होते हैं, and everything. What I did was I started off with, so I looked at, first I think I gave an online mock test to see where I stand. And then I realized कि okay, maths तो मुझे नहीं आती है. So then I started with NCERT. Then I moved on to this Arun Sharma book set. I did that. And then I gave old CAT test papers, mock
Arun
tests,
Sharma was maths, right? Or
all sections.
All sections.
So there's a book for every section. So I used those. Then whatever else I could find online. YouTube videos. So if I would have a doubt, I would look it up on YouTube. And ऐसे करके it was, that's how I prepared.
But you didn't take any coaching till then? Like no extra?
No, I didn't take coaching. I would ask for help from my BTech, BSc friends. If I got stuck on some problem or a concept, I would ask them for help. But I didn't take any formal coaching.
And Anindya, I'm asking you this because a lot of people who watch our videos are like aspirants for CAT. And they want to know how they should prepare for CAT. So were you like really good at maths and English and all these things when you were in school, or was it like that CAT is easy, I'll do it myself?
So I was very good at the VA section, the English section, because English is my it's my first language. Then and I've also had a habit of reading from an early age. I think around first grade, second grade. That's when my mother inculcated this habit. You have to read a novel every week, and she would get me. We would have a bazaar outside our house where they would sell second-hand or old novels, pirated novels. So वहाँ से हमेशा हर हफ्ते 50-60 रुपए में she would get me something. And then I was supposed to read it over the week and give her like a summary of what I've read. So I think that really helped, because VRC section for me was like, I didn't prepare for it. I scored the highest only in that. And that's what got me above the 99 mark. DILR, I think I was okay with. Quant, I was not that great at. And which is why I ended up preparing the most for it. And I had a very basic strategy for stats. I mean, most people, I think most coaching institutes also tell you this, and I think everybody has a realization of it, but they tend to forget this in the exam. You're not there to do all the questions. So if you have to do 22 questions in 40 minutes, that's still a hard, because it's 40 minutes per section and 22 questions. 22 questions, 40 minutes is still hard. But if you come in with the approach, so then it's not going to be that hard. Plus, I would always use my first 2 to 3 minutes to figure out, okay, I would make 3 columns on a rough sheet, easy, medium, hard. I would just classify the questions into those 3 categories. And मेरा approach ये था कि hard तो देखना ही नहीं है, and easy, medium में जितना हो जाए करना है. Easy सबसे पहले करना है, then medium पहले. And that's how I would always solve my paper. Because I think last month, November के time तक, any aspirant should have a firm grasp on which topics they're good at, which they're not at. Right. So if you're not good at a topic, उस time पे छोड़ दो and just avoid those questions. So I remember I was, for some reason, बाद में I could figure it out, but till CAT, I was horrible at trigonometry. Especially वो angle of depression, angle of virus जितने questions, I would always do something wrong there and कुछ गलत हो जाता था. So by the last month, I gave up on it. कि ठीक है, exam में question आएगा, I won't do it. I'll spend my time with the rest of the things. So making those choices, I think, is far more crucial than doing mass prep, 10 hours, 20 hours of study. There's a lot of videos online. They're like, okay, you need to study these many hours. So I would just say if you put in, on an average, if you're putting in 5 to 6 hours, but good 5 to 6 hours, where you're fresh, where your mind is productive, then it's fine. Like most people can crack it.
Fresh is the big important thing, isn't it? कि मतलब ये नहीं है कि मतलब रात को 10 बजे आए और उसके बाद फिर 5-6 hours. It doesn't work. When does the 5-6 hours work for you?
When you're at your freshest. So for me, when I was prepping, I would नहीं मतलब सुबह उतना ऐसे मेरा कोई स्पेशल रूटीन नहीं था कि I'm gonna wake up at 4 मैं स्ट्रीट लाइट के नीचे पढ़ूंगा वो नहीं कर रहा था मैं बट इट वाज वेरी सिंपल कि सुबह के 2-3 घंटे दे दो एंड जब पक जाओ पढ़ते पढ़ते तो फिर देन गो आउट डू योर थिंग देन उसके बाद शाम को वापस जब आ जाओ वेर यू स्टिल रिलेटिवली फाइन देन यू डू इट and then because if you're coming out like if you're coming to study after you're done with your day when you're tired when you don't want to do it I didn't enjoy studying I wasn't passionate about CAT exam and its syllabus but मेरा इतना था कि जितना whenever I'm fresh उसी time पे कर लो okay I feel good right now I can put in 2 to 3 hours and I'm a person who can't study for more than 2-3 hours at a time so I need a break after that and the topics are at the end of the day they're all pre-11th mathematics जितना भी है so there's no calculus. If there was calculus, so then it would have. I wouldn't have gone to NIIM if there was calculus.
but that is JEE. वो IIT के लिए होता है calculus.
हाँ, right.
But I think Anindya, from what you said, is there are 2-3 very important points that I took out, and even for at my age and in my future career is. I think these points are important is do what you can, number one, and when you can, number two. But most importantly, pick your strengths and park your weaknesses or in whatever order. Sometimes people might think play on your weaknesses first and then get your strengths out. But that's a tactic, not a strategy. But all that you've done already.
When you have the time, to go through your weaknesses, try to convert it from a weakness to an average or to a strength. But when you don't have much time left, so जो strength है उसी पे focus करो कि वो उसको bulletproof कर दो. Like when you sit in an exam, if you say geometry is your strength, so you should have that confidence कि geometry में कोई भी question आ जाए वो तो गलत नहीं होगा. You should have that energy in your strength. Weaknesses जो है in the last month or last 40 days you shouldn't be approaching.
Lovely. And I think I'm actually taking a lot of learning from your CAT prep for my future career. I mean, some of these things I've already heard of and known, and some of these things are new, but I think they reinforce. Lovely. So you did your CAT. उसके बाद क्या हुआ? Both Viks and I are a bit old in that sense. हमें तो percentile के बारे में भी पता चला है अभी.
Okay.
तो percentile हुआ, कितनी calls आई, फिर क्या हुआ?
So I got my CAT percentile. I got 99.47. And if I was an engineer, तो नहीं होता मेरा. Honestly, I had asked.
99.47 is like engineer के लिए नहीं होता, but non-engineer का हो जाता है.
Yeah, so most colleges have in their admission criteria, they give diversity marks for educational diversity, gender diversity, and so on. So educational diversity, since I had a BA degree, that would give me, every college has a different criteria, exact kitne marks ho de rahe for educational diversity, but that helped me out because as far as I know, most engineers wouldn't get a IIM Calcutta interview call at anything less than 99.6.
Do you think on that, कि instead of a BA degree, अगर आपने BSc करी होते, for the same level of intelligence and CAT, you may be on the borderline or not have gotten. Forget IIT, BSc kari hoti.
Could be. Now, there's two ways to look at it. One is, of course, if I had scored the exact same percentile, then I probably would not have gotten a call or it would have been very borderline. Okay. But then there's also the fact that if I did a BSc, I would have been more in touch with mathematics. It's also about familiarity with numbers. So I could have ended up scoring better. So ये तो eternal debate है. BTech people will always, like in my batch, there was always this push and it used to happen. So people would say, अच्छा, BA इसलिए आ गया, and then I would be like, तुमने BTech करके क्या कर लिया, मैं भी तो so there was always this, but of course no I have nothing against BTech graduates. And also going back to the coaching part of it, because I think now that the way I came up was as if I'm very anti-coaching. Coaching is great for people who need structure. Most of the people in my batch had taken some form of coaching, if not active classes, weekend classes. They would have taken something or the other. And they did really well. I also had a pre-existing bias, which is why I didn't go for coaching. But who knows, if I'd gone for coaching, maybe I could have ended up scoring higher. So I'm not too sure about the impact of coaching. I think it's a personal choice.
Right. No, absolutely. It is a personal choice. And did any of your friends take any kind of coaching and they got through?
Yeah. In fact, my best friend from I'm like in my batch in Calcutta. He took coaching from Time, and he got a 99.99, which is an obscene percentile to have.
Time. Sorry, we are too old. Time क्या है?
Time is also a coaching institute. Triumphant Institute of Management. Yeah. So they have a long full form. Triumphant Institute of Management Education. So, but I think Time is actually in terms of reach, it's number one now. Like it's the most well known.
I'm reminded, Viks, कि हम कितने बुढ़े हो गए हैं. हमें पता ही नहीं है कि क्या time है. Do you?
I think I'd heard about the institute. I didn't know the full form. So just for a friend का 99.99 percentile आया, Time का student था. So they must have advertised him throughout India. That look, our student got 99.
Yeah. They put up his photo in all sorts of advertisements. He wasn't too happy about it either, because the photo was a very bad photo. We all agreed upon it. He did believe that coaching helped him out.
Anindya, what I find interesting is, and what I think a lot of our people who watch this episode can take inspiration from, is कि तुम sports quota में 10th or 12th में तुम you went to universities and all that. उसके बाद भी you have injury in March, and in 6 months you focus on your strengths and weaknesses. It's possible to get into IIMs by doing that. कि ऐसा नहीं था कि तुम बहुत young age से बहुत पढ़ाई कर रहे हो and all that. And you literally had to start with basic maths. जैसा कि तुमने कहा कि you have to start from basic maths, NCERT की books, class 8, 9, 10 books, So that's very good. And I had a similar story. I got into computers when I was in 8th grade. I had just didn't do anything with 9, 10, 11, 12 throughout my college. And I got into IIMs because I could study for 4 or 5 months. And I remember opening my NCERT books and I must say those books were really good. मैंने पहली बार realize किया कि ये class 8, 9, 10 की जो original books हैं वो बहुत अच्छी किताबें. So I used to live in Calcutta. So I went to College Street in Calcutta to buy some of those old books because I didn't have those. And that's how I got into that. And I like the fact that they didn't care that I had no other extracurricular in my school or college because I was into computers all the time. But now I hear, because one of our batchmates is actually a dean at IIM Bangalore, now I hear that IIM wants to see your extracurriculars, did you do them, did you not do them, and so on. But I think there should be an outlet for people who are not traditional in the sense but they're smart. And our country, at least for me, IIM fulfilled that function that it gave me a way forward. So, and with you, I think a lot of people can take inspiration from the fact that just studying for 4 or 5 months, focusing on your strengths, you can get into an IIM. So how did you do at IIMs? What was like, were you in the top of your batch, middle of your batch, bottom of your batch?
I did horribly.
Before we get into the interview call, kahan se aaya?
Interview, I got C and below.
What is below? I mean, hierarchy kya hai aajkal?
Now it's ABC is like one block. Then you have FMS, STGAN, and
ऊपर कौन है? A है, B है, C है within that block.
I would say A does have that prestige factor there.
You're talking to two Bangalore graduates.
Right. No, so A does have that thing, especially for a lot of aspirants. उनका रहता है कि IIM is the apex. But I've seen a lot of people फिर B है फिर C है, but I've seen a lot of people choose C over A, and I've seen people choose B over A, and it's all mixed up. Like people choose according to their, especially if they're not freshers where they have some experience and or if they're freshers and they know what they.
Lucknow कहाँ पर है आजकल because in our time, so I'll tell you, when we joined, there were only 4 IIMs. ABC was one block, of course, and slightly different hierarchy थी, but जो भी थी. But L was like the fourth, a distant fourth at that time. I would have thought कि L अभी वो same block में आ गया होगा, kind of, नहीं है? Which block is it?
No. It's still a little far from that block. It's,
So L
so
के block
ABC.
पे कौन?
So ABC is one block. Then there's and again this is वो तो everybody will defend their college to death वाला scene है कि everybody will say कि हमारा ऊपर ये वो. But
Exactly.
if you go strictly by placement, so then it is ABC. Then there is FMS, SP Jan Mumbai, and XLRI in one block, and then you have Lucknow, Kozhikode, Indore.
Lucknow, Kozhikode, Indore in the same block in IIM.
हाँ, but Lucknow is above KNI. Lucknow is definitely above those two, but it has fallen a little behind XL, SP, and FMS.
Very interesting.
And SP is actually doing a fantastic job because they keep their batch sizes small, and their education, like their curriculum, is always updated.
What is
Yeah, we're not up to date on that. So
what is SP Jan's batch size now, Anindya?
What is batch size? So they have some. I think they have two batches. One is PGDM marketing, one is PGDM finance, and it's around 100 kids each.
Oh, okay.
200.
And
right?
I'm Calcutta, when you were there, it was around 600 kids.
480 in my batch.
480. So very interesting. You're saying कि IIM में भी पढ़ाई नहीं करी तुमने. मतलब you went to IIM Calcutta, you went like you were focused on grades. वहाँ पे भी मस्ती कर रहे थे.
Oh no, I tried. ऐसा नहीं था कि I didn't try, but I ended up to, of course, like there's relative grading, and my competitors or peers, they were all IIT Bombay topper है, कोई बिट्स पिलानी का topper है, and उनके लिए everything was पढ़ाई उनके लिए हलवा थी कि यार 2 घंटे बैठे सब समझ में आ गया. Also because a lot of the courses had, I mean, MBA में तो it's all packaged very tightly. So if you truly want to learn the subject, you'll have to do some of your research on your own, and you'll have to go through all the course material and everything. Whereas a lot of people coming in already had that knowledge, which I didn't have. So for a subject like say accounts, we had 20 sessions, right? The course lasts 20 classes. So I think कि for accounts जो BCom वाले बच्चे 3 साल में cover करके आ रहे हैं, 20 क्लास में तो for somebody who hasn't done it before, it's not going to happen. So there would be a lot of people who had that knowledge, who had the basic knowledge to understand everything that was going on in those 20 classes. Whereas for me, it would start off, when I went into, I was like, okay, we're all at the same page. We're all starting off at the same page. But then 5 classes in, I wouldn't know where we are. Whereas the others would. So wahan I realized that I'll have to work a little extra hard. But then after a point, I realized that अब finance तो जाना है नहीं, कंसल्टिंग भी जाने का मन नहीं है, तो ग्रेजुएट न्यू है तो क्या हो जाएगा.
Anindya, I so much relate to your story because I also went from DU and then went there, and in the first term, or rather I would say half term में ही realization हो गया कि boss no point, right?
हाँ,
Your story, when we come to your story in a bit, मैं एक चीज बोलना चाहता हूँ कि विक्स आउट हियर ये भी DU से गया था, कॉमर्स बैकग्राउंड से गया था, मैं तो साइंस था फिर भी, एंड ही वाज स्टिल अ DML. सो आई जस्ट वांट यू टू नो ताकि आप DML अच्छा DML नहीं पता इनको, आजकल क्या टर्मिनोलॉजी पढ़ रही है, लाइक टॉप 10 आउट ऑफ द होल बैच. व्हाट्स योर IIM टर्मिनोलॉजी क्या है? IR. ओके. सो वो टॉप 10 में था पूरे बैच में. मैं इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ कि आगे जो भी आपको DML या IR के बारे में बोलना हो तो ध्यान से बोलें क्योंकि विक्स वाज पार्ट ऑफ दैट.
नहीं, और मैं विज्ञानी के बारे में बात बताता हूँ. The guy gets into Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, Lucknow, all the institutes, and he chooses Bangalore over Ahmedabad. That's the reason simple that here Ahmedabad में ना prohibition थी. तो दारू का
No, that's a very good reason. That's a very, very good reason to not to Ahmedabad. So the Calcutta, so I was.
I'll share another anecdote, okay? I'll share another anecdote. So, like I said, I was into computers from class 8, right? So I'm Bangalore पहुंचा, and I heard that there's a computer and math society. There's a society join कर ली. And then I heard that IIMB doesn't have a good website, doesn't have a good email system. So I said, okay, chalo, I'll fix all that. So in the first term, I was actually ranked 17th in the batch. I didn't study much. I was like, I'm like, DU में ऐसे बिताया. I went to class 12 times. I'm Bangalore में, the first term, some of the teachers actually said that they'll fail us if we don't come to classes. So I, chalo कि class तो जानी पड़ेगी. आप तो कोई, I don't have any extra connection कि I'm a hostelite. यहाँ तो सभी hostelite है. Rank 17. Then suddenly मैंने देखा यार, and a lot of girls in our batch who would watch the episode would get upset, but I got some attention from the girls. He had 17th rank आया, but suddenly girls want to talk to me. मैं सोचा यार ये तो बड़े interesting है. तो second term में पढ़ाई करता हूँ. So I actually did less of computers in second and third term. I actually went from 17. It was enough to climb up to 7. So I must have done much better in my second and third term. So,
but उसके बाद विक्स, उसके बाद लड़कियों ने बात करी तेरे से?
No, actually, but not
okay. We'll pause at that.
And मैंने थोड़ा बेवकूफ था. मैं बहुत बेवकूफ. अच्छा story. I won't name the girl. She was in our batch. And second term की बात है, मैं लाइब्रेरी में पढ़ाई कर रहा हूँ. पढ़ाई करने की चेष्टा कर रहा हूँ. वैसे लाइब्रेरी में कभी भी पढ़ाई नहीं हुई थी. तो मैं I was in the library and she comes up to me and says कि यार आज रात को elsewhere में party है. Would you like to come to the party with me and we could hang out and dance? I said I still remember there was something else happening in my life at that time, and I didn't understand that she was like literally this girl is asking me out on a date. Like that connection didn't click. And I thought वो मुझसे पार्टी में बुला रही है डांस करने. मुझे डांस तो आता नहीं है. मैंने कहा नहीं यार आज नहीं फिर कभी करते. And she was a batchmate, and I know. After so many years, I realized कि कितना बड़ा चोटियाल था. कोई ये भी नहीं समझ में आया कि when she took so much of effort to come and ask it. So
in both these two stories, I found only one part really offensive. That was मैंने ज़्यादा पढ़ाई नहीं कि मेरा IIM 17 आ गया. वो मुझे अच्छा नहीं लगा सुन के. But ठीक है, the rest of the story was nice. The opening was brutal.
I think in my batch there were Miglani जैसे ज़्यादा बंदे थे. I think Miglani तो हर Saturday party करता था L Square पे, right?
Yeah, I used to be the DJ on L Square, and L Square Anindya, since you're not from IIM Bangalore, is our party place. So उसमें कौन DJ होगा, कौन at least in-house DJ होगा. बाकी हम जब पैसे होते थे तो बाहर का DJ भी बुला लेते थे. So that kind of a role I played. And guess how long the DJ stays at the party from start to finish, right? So वो सब करते थे. और the big thing for the DJ was, जो मेरे साथ था, यार लोग ना फ्री में ड्रिंक देते थे आपको. Anyways, let's move on. So you got in IIM Calcutta, and IIM Calcutta की life क्या है जोका में wherever?
So now at least I know this for a fact, as compared to A and B, we don't have. I mean, we barely have any restrictions when it comes to like campus life. So A में तो चलो
we barely have any women on campus, but ठीक है, मतलब restrictions की बात कर रहे हो आप?
Restrictions की बात कर रहा हूँ, as in campus like admin enforced restrictions. So basically, I mean, and this I'm sure you would really like. Swiggy से delivery होती है दारू की, तो Swiggy delivers alcohol to your hostel doorstep in IIM Calcutta. There's that, and then apart from that also, it's like this. The admin won't help us out when we need them, but at the same time they won't interfere with anything. तो अगर आपके रूम का लाइट बल्ब खराब हो गया, you will graduate. You will not keep getting repaired. But at the same time you can pass out drunk in the middle of the road and you can sleep there and nobody will say a thing unless it is placement time या बाहर से कोई स्पीकर आ रहा है. क्योंकि बाहर से कोई स्पीकर आ रहा है तब तो सारे पौधे लग जाएंगे, फूल आ जाएंगे, गमले लग जाएंगे. तो वो भी उस वाली एरिया में we are not supposed to like be seen, but in placement के टाइम पे. But वैसे तो any time campus पे, the campus is always up 24/7. There's always people away, and उसके अलावा you can go wherever you want, whenever you want. All sorts of substances available. So it's in that sense there is no interference, and most of the profs also they party with us. So in that sense it's a very relaxed atmosphere. So हमारे टाइम पे वही चलता है कि IIM A है तो A is for academic, B is for, I mean, no offense to you guys, but B is for good day. Now there's a reason for that. There's the reason being that there's a higher work ex criteria. So there's more points given for work experience. So most of the people there are at an average is 26 to 27. Whereas IIM C, most people are aged around 24ish because there's a lot more freshers. And then C is still.
On that, it has probably changed in the last 20 years because that wasn't anything like 20 years ago, Viks.
Yeah. No, I think in my batch, we had a lot of freshers.
You had a lot of exceptions or no exceptions?
Freshers बहुत थे.
Zara
मेरे बैच
Zara was freshest thing. Viks was a fresher. He was one of the youngest people on campus.
Right. Now though it's almost impossible. Like most freshers were giving the CAT exam, they just strike off B off their target campus. ये तो होगा ही नहीं. And जो इक्के दुक्के freshers जिनका हो भी जाता है, they're कहने के लिए fresher है in the sense कि ठीक है when they were in their BTech वो 2 startup बना के छोड़ दिए उन्होंने. And उस टाइप के लोग हैं who may not have on paper work but they have work in some way or the other.
जिसको बोलते हैं कि पहले वाला CAT पे नहीं हुआ, सेकंड वाले में कर लिया तो वर्क एक्स दिखा दिया.
हाँ, so उस टाइप के है कुछ, but mostly freshers के लिए तो B is practically off limit.
I think in my opinion, again, not about B, A, C, whatever, but I think MBA now, in hindsight, MBA is a degree only once you've done something in life. चाहे घर में अंगूर की रेडी लगाई हुई हो, if you know that Delhi link. उतना भी किया हो, कुछ करके आए हो, उतना करो, and then learn business versus यार एक और डिग्री लेने के लिए I don't think MBA is a degree. Of course, I went in there with like some what you're saying, which is why मैं थोड़ा सा फर्जी वर्क एक्स पे half year वर्क एक्स पे गया था. I was not as young as Viks, who came with zero work एक्स. सही है ना Viks?
Yeah, I came with zero work एक्स.
वो डायरेक्ट गया था, मैं एक साल बाद कुछ तो वर्क एक्स दिखा के गया था. That kind of a thing. I don't think MBA is for anyone at this point. For anyone who comes in without work ex. In my opinion, MBA is for someone who's done there. Ideally, 2 years, 3 years. Ideally. 6 महीने भी हो सकता है, 5 साल भी हो सकता है, but something 2-3 साल तो कुछ तो किया होगा, and then you want to fine tune it. That's what my impression of an MBA, ideal MBA is right now.
Ideally, that should be the case. However, even the top B schools and all B schools in India have been reduced to placement agencies. So, yes. Education-wise, most people don't look at it as an educational opportunity. They look at it as a network building / placement. कि पहली job मिलेगी वहाँ से और अच्छा network बन जाएगा. This will help me out in the future. These are the only 2 things people look. They don't look at it as कि okay, I'll be fine-tuning my skills there. They look at it as a placement plus reach बढ़ेगी. So, sure. And which is why अब ABC का भी popularity high क्यों? Because they offer the highest average package. That is the factor that is the most attractive for aspirants. So looking at it from solely a placement perspective, barring a few sectors like product management and operations, बाकी सब में तो freshers का entry है. So which is why a lot of freshers, more freshers nowadays than पहले, apply for CAT immediately in the last year they start photo of CAT. And it's become it's reached a level where there's UG first year students who have CAT cleared out. So message me on LinkedIn or other platforms कि I have a doubt about CAT, and I was like, अच्छा इस साल दे रहे हो CAT? नहीं मैं CAT 3 साल बाद दूंगा. And I was like, oh, are you working now? So, नहीं, I'm a first year undergraduate. So they're already in that zone कि हाँ fresher होके जाना है क्योंकि मुझे कंसल्टिंग में जाना है, मुझे फाइनेंस में जाना है, और इसमें या जनमैन में मार्केटिंग में तो इसमें फ्रेशर्स का हो जाता है. So it's all about placement.
So Anindya, I think you got a perfect topic for the next segue, ki placements. So you did some summer internship and then you got placements. Tell us about that.
So my summer internship was with summer internship का time तो मेरे लिए बहुत ही brutal था, because while as compared to other colleges, I would say कि Calcutta का placecom culture is still relatively relaxed. Like there's not a lot of ऐसा ragging वाला scene जो बहुत सारे colleges में आजकल के वैसा नहीं है. But at the same time, they weren't very happy with me. And I managed to secure a 5-company ban in my summer internship process, which then removed all the Genman and marketing top companies.
Why weren't they happy with you, and why did you get banned from 5 companies?
So the issue was that there were a couple of issues. One was, which wasn't the major issue, कि we have company PPT. So there's a minimum कि इतना attend करना होता. So I was slightly below the minimum. So उनको एक वो factor मिला था सुनाने का. Then the second thing was कि me and the best friend I told you about, the 99.99 guy. So we used to do case com कि साथ में एक किसी तीसरे को लेके we would do case com. तो R30 लिटिल का केस कॉम था जिसके हम कैंपस विनर बने थे. उसमें हमारा टीम नेम वाज कॉन्फ्लेट. So no. Now ADL did not have an issue with it. ADL in fact joked about it. They had fun with it. प्रॉब्लम कहाँ हुई कि उन्होंने अपने वेबसाइट पर बड़ा बड़ा डाल दिया टीम कॉन्फ्लेट का IIM कैलकाटा, हमारी फोटो डाल दी, Then it went viral on Instagram meme pages कि ये IIM Calcutta सबसे ऊपर जा रहा है. And then the Placecom saw it, and then they had a massive issue with it कि भाई तुम क्या college का reputation damage करने निकले हो. Our defense was कि the company doesn't have a problem with it. If they had a problem with it, हमें जिताते क्यों? But of course they didn't like that justification. And then उसी टाइम पे we had been giving a lot of other cases and सब में कुछ ना कुछ बकवास नाम रखा था हमने कि क्योंकि we didn't have this long term vision ना कि अगर जीत गए तो क्या होगा. उसने कुछ ना कुछ गंदा नाम रखा होता था. And Concept is not even the beginning of it. I think Asian Paints में it was some 454 करके कुछ तो टीम नेम रखा था. And then उसमें भी वो राउंड क्लियर हो गए तो नाम आ गया ऊपर. तो दे हैड अ प्रॉब्लम विद इट. तो देन दे वर लाइक कि ये नहीं सुधरेगा, ये सीरियस नहीं है. प्लस उस टाइम तक हम कैंपस में ऐसा हो गया था कि प्लेसफॉर्म वाले देखते थे कि कौन रिगरसली प्रेप कर रहा है, कौन डेडिकेटेड सिंसियर लग रहा है. अब माय शेड्यूल वाज ऑलवेज कि एवरी इवनिंग आई वुड गो वर्कआउट. तो ऐसा भी टाइम होता था व्हेन एवरीबॉडी वाज इनसाइड, जिम खाली है, स्पोर्ट्स का पूरा सब खाली है. मैं 2 घंटे अपने जिम के लिए निकाल लेता था, तो उसके लिए भी मेरा नाम हो गया कि भाई ये तो मजे कर रहा है, ये तो सही कर रहा है. तो देन ऑल ऑफ दिस एडेड अप एंड देन दे वर लाइक दिस इज योर बैंड. तो देन उसमें मेरे टॉप
प्लेसकॉम यूजुअली मतलब वो देखता था कि कौन बंदा प्रिपेयर कर रहा है फॉर प्लेसमेंट्स.
No, so they wouldn't actively do it, but this added to it. So when they hauled me up कि भाई ये सब हुआ है and we want to give you a ban, so then this also came up कि you're not sincere. हमें सब पता है, हमने सुना है तुम्हारे बारे में, you're not sincere. So that also became a factor. Plus on top of that वो भी थोड़ा था कि तो अशोका का I would like the general public image is कि वो some fancy liberal arts college, पढ़ाई वढ़ाई नहीं होती है वहाँ पे. Which I would say कि वहाँ पे ऑप्शन है कि आप अगर नहीं पढ़ना चाहते हो तो you can still survive. But it's hard to. I think it's like any other IIM वाला you know कि if you want to be at the top, then you have to work hard. But if you want to be average, then you can be average very easily. So that was the case. के बाद फिर यहाँ पर उनका वही पूरा इमेज बना हुआ था. then they were like कि ये कंपनी बैन है वो. So finally end में I got into MX, the media company.
Actually banned you from 5 companies. See, that earns you respect, Anindya, in my books. Agar tum Silicon Valley, if you apply for some of these, you must have heard about Y Combinator, right? So एक startup funding system है. So they actually ask you, like, did you ever get banned in anything? कुछ naughty किया है life में? So that's literally one of the criteria is to accept you into Y Combinator. And myself, like when I look back in my life, some of the funnest people I've had fun working with together are people who have done something out of the ordinary. And I think, and I don't think they banned you for कुछ PPTs नहीं attend करी या जिम के लिए 2 घंटे निकालते थे. They banned you क्योंकि तुम्हारे consulting team का नाम था Conslats. And
that was
viral on Instagram. That's why you got
that was the main issue.
You got banned कि तुम्हारे जो 2 दोस्त थे वो भी उनको भी ban कर.
नहीं, मुझे ही क्या, मैं टीम लीडर था, मैंने नाम रखा था. तो I accepted that. I told them नहीं, उनकी गलती नहीं है. So then 5 company ban essentially meant कि GD clear कर लो और उसका जब interview slot मिलेगा, that counts as 1 company. So it's not just any कि okay you can't apply to these 5 companies. 5 interviews.
Oh my God, that's hardcore. Like that's not normal.
But ये प्लेसकॉम को नहीं बोला तुमने
क्या कि मतलब
प्लेसमेंट कमिटी?
नहीं वो तो सब कुछ किया, अपील किया, बट वो कुछ नहीं होता. टाइम फ्रेम इतना शॉर्ट होता है कि उन्होंने बैन लगा दिया तो लगा दिया. तो उसमें मेरे जितने भी अच्छे वाले लाइक जो टॉप FMCG कंपनीज दैट आई वाज टारगेटिंग, वेयरएवर आई गॉट एन इंटरव्यू शॉट, वो दे जस्ट वहां से नेगेटिव काउंट चालू और ओके अब 5 बचे, अब 4 बचे, अब 3 बचे, ऐसे जैसे उन्होंने किया.
I don't like that. And Placecom is literally run by students, at least at IIM Bangalore. कि एक प्रोफेसर था बट वो तो एडमिट रोल था.
हाँ same.
It's literally run by students, and some of them are your batchmates and some of them are seniors. 1 year senior.
Same. They did like, so I was one example set in my batch, and the other example guy, उसका क्या हुआ था कि उसका there was some online PPT American Express या किसी का, and he mistakenly switched his mic on, and उसके रूम में 5-6 लड़के बैठे थे, चल रही थी गाली का लॉज उनकी वहाँ पीछे, and the HR heard, everybody heard. तो उसके लिए फिर उसको बुला के तो ही अपोलोजाइज कि मैंने नहीं किया है, मेरे बैचमेट थे, उन्होंने ऐसे कर दिया, ये हो गया, जेन्युइन एरर. तो प्लेसकॉम में उसको बहुत प्यार से बिठाया, बोला कि कोई बात नहीं, बट वी हैव टू शो कि मतलब तुम्हें बैन वैन चढ़ा है, वी हैव टू टेक सम एक्शन. तो अच्छा, टेल अस व्हिच सेक्टर आर यू एमिंग फॉर, हम उसको छोड़ देंगे, बाकी ऐसे कोई दूसरे सेक्टर के कंपनीज का बैन लगा देंगे. So I said, oh, I really want, I'm targeting e-commerce. E-commerce 5 कंपनी बैन लगा दिया उसमें, द टॉप 5 कंपनी पूछ के कि e-com करना है, Amazon लगा दिया, Flipkart लगा दिया, I couldn't apply anywhere.
That didn't sound right.
It is like so wrong, but let's not go into it because it is so wrong, and we'll go into a loop in just discussing this. I can discuss this, how wrong this is, on an entire separate episode with you, Anindya.
Do you remember this or not? ICICI had come to our batch, okay?
I remember I was Placecom, and let's not get into that. Oh.
No. I want to because he was Placecom, and I think Kamath was there. The CEO of ICICI was giving a presentation to the whole batch. And I was speaking to some seniors from ICICI who had graduated a couple of years before us. And I said, ki kaisa ICICI and all that. And they knew I was at DML. So they said, ki boss, ICICI mein jana mat. Kamath जाके बहुत कुछ जाएगा. मैं भीतर बहुत bureaucratic है. तो मैंने पता नहीं मुझे क्या, पता नहीं भूख लगी थी या क्या था. I don't know what was going on in my. So I asked Kamath the question in front of everyone. Ketcha, you made such a good presentation. But I've heard from people who are a couple of years senior to us that ICICI is very bureaucratic inside. What do you think about that? From I thought, at least in the mind of a 22-year-old, okay? And you have to understand, I was 22 at that time. I'll probably not ask that question today. But I thought that I was doing something good. I was helping Kamath improve his organization. Why shouldn't I give him original and good feedback? And he replied, ki, there's an impression like that, but you're working on it, or aisa nahi hai, and all that. And I thought, good, I did a good job. I moved the ball forward. 2 days later, one of my batchmates, like the guy is my batchmate, I don't think my classmate, my section mein tha, my 3 section, he comes up to me and says, ki, main uska naam nahi bataunga, but probably Meglani knows because you were part of Placecom Meglani, and you must have put him up to come and talk to me. And he says, ki KDR, that wasn't done yet. He said, so IIM Bangalore ki bahut reputation kharab hui. ICICI will not come to recruit from our campus. And we have heard that he was very upset with all the IMBNs he has hired from ICICI has hired. And so that wasn't done. And we are thinking of banning you from placements. And this was 2 months before the jobs are going to apply. And now when I look back at it, I got a good job, but I didn't participate in placements. I got a good job because I knew about that company earlier. Maine kuch case jeeta tha. They invited me to New York and all that, and they gave me a job outside the placement process. And I didn't sit through the placement. I didn't take the job. I did my own startup. But one of the things was I felt it hurt me deeply when I heard one of my batchmates say that to me. It hurt me deeply because I didn't have any malice in me when I asked that question. And I understand that there are societal implications of doing that. And
I think Viks, मैं ये सिर्फ बोलूँगा कि what your question was is of course an innocent question. It's just that maybe 25 years ago, because there is like a demand and supply, it was seen differently. And I don't know at all whether as Placecom or whether as another batchmate of yours, कि किसने बोला, क्या बोला, क्यों बोला. I can also understand that other point of view कि यार हमारी फट रही है तेरी तूने कुछ हमारी कर दिया because 25 years ago it's a different reason that even people Kamath or whoever else can take offense on versus आज की डेट में उनको भी पता है उनके HR बोलेगा boss do not take offense at that question because of whatever else etc.
But I feel that my life trajectory has been what has been because of the personality that I brought to the table. And my personality was that I need to move things forward and having a difficult conversation is okay. And that's why when I hire people for my teams, I always look for people like Anindya, you were mentioning, that people are willing to look outside the box and say, yeah, it's okay to have a funny name. What's the problem? I'd like that. I like rule breakers. I think it's important to be a rule breaker. And now, Meglani, please have the editor take it out of that I like rule breakers. I don't know how it will get twisted.
नहीं बिल्कुल ठीक है यार बिल्कुल. I mean rule breakers is time sensitive also. So that's all I was saying. That what is a rule in one time period may not be a rule in a different time period. Yeah. That's all I was trying to say.
आज तो तुम बहुत हंसी मजाक से बोल रहे हो कि उन्होंने मुझे 5 जगह का ban लगा दिया. I initially thought it was 5 companies ban. You can't apply to these 5 companies. I can live with that problem. But to say that you want a clear group discussion, you're going to get an interview slot, and then we were not live to sit for that interview. Like, I wonder how you felt when that was done. Like today, you can look back and you can laugh about it, but how did you feel at that point?
And forget today. I mean, even 20 years ago, with our different mindsets at that time, I think that would have been an absolute.
No, I know. Like, just my own batch telling me they're thinking of banning me from placements. Like, it was shattering for me. Like, I thought.
Yeah, at the time, of course, I was pretty stressed out about it. Okay, now it's like I'm already behind everyone else. So I'm starting my journey there. But I think it's around a week. I think one thing was that I had a really good friend circle there. I managed to make some really good friends there, and they were very supportive throughout the process. So, मतलब at one point उन्होंने मुझे कन्विंस कर दिया था कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा क्या होगा, समर इंटर्नशिप अच्छा नहीं लगेगा, तो फाइनल प्लेसमेंट है अभी, ये वो है करके कैसे कैसे करके उन्होंने मेरा मूड तो ठीक कर दिया था. आई वाज इन अ बैड मूड फॉर आई वुड से 2 days तो मेरा मूड खराब था, स्पेशली बिकॉज द इंटरेक्शन विद द प्लेसमेंट कमिटी हैडंट बीन प्लेजेंट. तो मुझे था वो कि भाई ये क्या नाटक है, हाउ कैन दे डू दिस टू मी एंड फॉर व्हाट रीजन, कि व्हाट इज दिस perennial fear कि IIM Calcutta का brand image खराब हो जाएगा, कि Calcutta is there for a reason, like it's become IMC is IMC for a reason. अगर मेरे एक इस चीज से Calcutta का भी brand image ruin हो जाएगा, तो then what is IIM Calcutta? तो ये थोड़ा सा मेरा था. I wrote a couple of emails to the admin, ये ऐसे हुआ वैसे हुआ, but again वही classic time लगता था हर चीज में, and placement season was on our head. Then I just went in with कि ठीक है shortlist आए हैं मुझे, so I don't need to worry. Because I had done like CV मैंने अच्छे से बनाया था, I had done internships and everything. So marketing में I had done a lot of internships, and that was the sector I was targeting. So I knew okay, marketing prefers freshers. That's what we had heard then, कि it prefers freshers. Plus on top of that मेरे पास relevant internships हैं, and marketing is a sector that doesn't care about
internships before the summer placements. Because we're talking about summer placements, right? तो उससे पहले तो internship होती नहीं है.
नहीं तो वो मैंने किया था, एक तो मैंने यूजी के लास्ट ईयर में किया था, तो दैट वाज देयर, एंड देन देयर वाज वन व्हिच आई डिड रिमोट ऑनलाइन व्हाइल जस्ट बिफोर समर प्लेसमेंट. कि घुसते ही आई एम कैलवे इन माय फर्स्ट मंथ आई गॉट अ रिमोट इंटर्नशिप.
फिक्स आजकल लोग मतलब क्लास 6 और 7 से समर प्लेसमेंट्स कर लेते हैं, इंटर्नशिप करते हैं.
तो when I had those points, I was fairly confident कि okay, I'm going to get shortlisted. Let's ठीक है, I might not get access to the best because usually those companies give the first shot. तो उनमें तो कटा. But then फिर end में MX clear हो गया. Then of course उस time भी I was a little stressed कि okay, it doesn't have that premium tag to it. I could have done better. ये वो. But then I ended up really enjoying the internship itself. So then I was happy with it, because summer internship experience for me, it was an eye opener in the sense कि my colleagues who went into consulting, वो भी मुंबई में थे, मैं भी मुंबई में था, and MX Player gave me Marriott Hotel for 2 months. McKinsey वालों ने भी Marriott Hotel दिया था 2 महीने के लिए. The only difference was, so I'll tell you of this one incident. So I have a friend who was interning in McKinsey at the time. MX Player, it's a media company, right? अब तो they faced after my internship, my friends taking मेरे वजह से बंद हो गया company. But basically it sold off a large part of its share to Amazon, and now it's a bit down in the dumps. But उस time पे it was going strong. So it's very, very open culture, very pleasant people, and I would be taken aback कि अच्छा corporate ऐसा होता है क्या, कि इतना unserious type का है. Everybody is in t-shirts and shorts. The first day I went full blazer, tie, everything. And when my manager saw me, he was like, क्या बन के आए हो, तुम क्या कर रहे हो? So then I said, कैसे, मुझे नहीं पता था ऐसा यहाँ पे होता है. I had a gala time there. The work was also fun. Basically, they made me make a marketing plan for 2 of their new web shows. So I was having fun with it. The team was fun, and उनका ये था 5-6 बच्चे, so they would all come in at 10ish. Then उसके 10 to 2 would be their busy time. लंच के बाद everybody would get lazy, and then 5 o'clock डिस्कशन ये होता था कि आज रात दारू कहाँ पियेंगे. That was the discussion. I was कि ये तो बहुत ही बढ़िया कंपनी, कॉर्पोरेट ऐसी होती है, मुझे तो पता ही नहीं था. तो उसके बाद फिर मेरा ऐसा चल रहा था. So then one night I'm coming back with my colleagues, and जो MX Player वाला, तो उन्होंने बोला कि हम ड्रॉप कर देते हैं होटल तक तुम्हारे. And then and we had just come back from a bar in Mumbai. So and उनका था कि चलो भाई होटल दिखाओ, तुम्हारे मजे हैं, तुम्हें मैरियट में रखा है. So IIM वालों पे इतना पैसा खर्च कर रहे हैं. So we were all having fun. We walk into the hotel, and my friend who's interning at McKinsey, he also walks in at the same time. वही रात के टाइम, एंड रात के अराउंड 12 बज रहे हैं, 12-1 बज रहे हैं. So we walk in together and he sees me, I see him, and then he's like, अरे तू यहाँ क्या कर रहा है? So I said कि वो नहीं, I'm also staying here. He's like, अच्छा, MX से married लिया तुझे? I was like, हाँ. So he's like, अच्छा, and he was in full suit, blazer and shirt, and he looked dead. उसकी आंखों में थी कि भाई वो लेबर करके आया है दिन भर. Then he said कि अच्छा ये लोग कौन है? तो ऐसे ही MX के लोग हैं. फिर तो अभी रात के 12 बजे तेरे साथ क्या करें? फिर नहीं, हम लोग बाहर गए थे. ऐसा, अच्छा अच्छा. Then
he's just changing the frame because you're talking consistently, so don't think about that much.
All right. No, so then he asked me कि how are you doing, what kind of work are you doing. मैंने जैसे ये बात बोली ना कि मैं वेब शो का मार्केटिंग प्लान बना रहा हूँ, सोशल मीडिया पे कैसे करना है वो, he lost it. He was like, भाई मैं 16 से 18 घंटे काम कर रहा हूँ, अब स्टाइपेंड भी हमारा सेम निकला. Stipend for the both of us was 1.6 a month. And he lost it at that. He was like, भाई क्या फायदा हुआ कि मैं 16 घंटे काम कर रहा हूँ. And he was getting in मुश्किल से like 3 hours of sleep, because 15 hours he would be at the office and then he would come back and make a PPT or whatever for the next. And my manager was so relaxed कि उसका, he would keep telling me, and they were stressing out so much. Relax करो, आराम से हो जाएगा ये वो. So when I told him all of this, he was like, this is unreal. And he didn't go to consulting उसके बाद. उसको PPO मिला, उसने नहीं लिया, वो जनमैन चला गया बंदा. At that point, I realized कि okay, while this may not be the perfect company, कि I don't want this life, definitely. जो consulting and finance में चल रहा है. Now, nothing against people who are in consulting and finance. I think they're braver people than I am. But I realized in that phase कि okay, I need to have that balance. I can't let my life just be like only work. Then उसके बाद, that was my summer internship experience.
And don't think working 16 hours a day produces more output or better output. मैंने क्वांटिटी में हो सकता है ज्यादा आउटपुट प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हो, बट क्वालिटी नहीं मेंटेन कर सकता कोई भी ह्यूमन बीइंग इफ इज पुटिंग इन मोर देन 8 or 9 hours.
Yeah, but उनका काम ही ऐसा है. Most of the like top management consulting firms, like the bulk of their projects are cost cutting and due diligence. So अब उसमें काम ही वो घिसने वाला है. So it's just about Excel. They're on their laptops, on their computers for hours and hours on end, and then convincing the client and so on. And they mostly operate in smaller teams also. So there's massive workload. तो करना ही पड़ेगा उतना काम. And at least finance, so I do believe there's a huge role in your hard skills, your intelligence and so on. But consulting, it's just hard work. So at one point, once you get used to the framework and the Excel and everything, then it's just more about how much work you can get done. I mean, yes, consulting does pay well in terms of like down the line, especially when there's revenue sharing and so on. But by the time you reach there, you've lost a lot. So
yeah. So tell me this: you do your summer internship, and then you get into TAS, right? And TAS must have been the day zero company.
Day one.
Day one.
So for us, day zero is finance only.
Oh, and there is no day minus one. Like I'm Bangalore, so I heard there's even a day minus one, man. But you guys only have day zero and day one.
वो तो बस companies को बेवकूफ बनाने का तरीका है, so that they feel important. That's pretty much it. But day zero is for us finance only, and it's mostly the top finance role. Day one is consulting, top Genman. Day two is marketing, product management. That's how they've divided it.
Okay. Or day zero, where who all comes? Give me some names.
So day zero, JPMC, Bank of America, then there's E25 Partners, there's Morgan Stanley, Edelweiss, mostly banks and PEC companies.
And are they, in your batch, how many people got jobs outside India, and what percentage of people got jobs outside India in your batch?
Directly through placements, I think it's very, very few, around four people out of 480.
Okay. So similar numbers like us. I think in our batch also, I think 4 or 5 people got job outside India back in the year 2000, out of a batch of around 180 students. So very similar numbers, though percentage-wise lower now than in the past. And in day one tax, so tell me, what did the tax interview look like?
So Tata has a very drawn-out, lengthy process. They have first a lengthy application form to essentially testing you on. They'll give you all sorts of questions like, what are your biggest challenges there? And you need to write a 500-word answer for all of these questions. And they'll ask you about everything you've done in your life. Then post that, there's an online test. It's a gamified test. Then you get your GD shortlist. So GD also is very different from the other GD. So if you look at marketing GDs, then mostly marketing companies GD लेके आते हैं. So they'll give you a topic where you do a segmentation, targeting, positioning, and then you do the 4P. And it's a fish market. Everybody's cleaning their lungs out. Everybody's trying to get that one special point in.
I remember there being a fish market in the group discussion before we went into IIMs. But even because I skipped placement, so I don't remember it, but I don't know what happened in
No, I think they have stopped the GD, the group discussion in selection. Is that right, Anindya?
No. It's still very much a part of marketing company selection that we.
No, but for IIM selection after CAT.
Oh, for IIM selection. Oh no. IIM selection में GD नहीं है. It's CAT and then your person.
हमारे टाइम पे GD था, तब फिश मार्केट था, but I was expecting कि 2 साल IIM में रहे, अपने बैचमेट्स के संग GD में जा रहे हो, तो वहां पे भी फिश मार्केट स्टार्ट हो जाता है.
हाँ फुल बेशर्मी, मतलब नोबडी.
पहले ऐसे होता था कि वो सिलेक्ट ही करते थे जो फिश मार्केट में बात कर सकते हैं. जब अब ऐसे होता है कि अब वो ज्यादा लोग ले रहे हैं और फिर सिलेक्ट कर रहे हैं कि कौन फिश मार्केट में बात कर सकते हैं.
फिश मार्केट बन ही जाता है eventually. There's very few GDs that go in a civil fashion in marketing, because it will always be some topic जिसमें everybody will get some brainwave beat every now and then. And जैसे हमारे टाइम पे it was particularly like AI and VR. इससे रिलेटेड कुछ भी पॉइंट कहीं से भी निकाल के यार वो मतलब टॉपिक है किटकैट कैसे बेचना है, पैकेजिंग में VR लगा देंगे, ये कर देंगे, वो कर देंगे, मतलब कुछ भी. एवरीबडी वुड बी टॉकिंग अबाउट सम नॉनसेंस. कुछ यूनिक एक बोलना है, मतलब वी वुड बी टोल्ड कि योर पॉइंट्स नीड टू हैव स्ट्रक्चर. एंड मार्केटिंग में 2-3 यूनिक पॉइंट अगर तुमने बोल दिया तो क्या वाह, मतलब हो गया करेक्शन. ऐसे नहीं जाएंगे उठा के एकदम. So everybody had something, some A subject lead, and it would be a shouting match because there would be a
VR लगा देंगे. That's like great.
हाँ कुछ तो मतलब कुछ out of the world somebody would say something, and then everybody would be stunned for a moment कि sir how do I top this, मतलब ये इसको कैसे defeat करें. So this would happen in mock DD जो हमारा prep के टाइम पे होता था, उसमें भी यही होता था. Then उसके we would get to see the final version in the actual DD. तो सबके पास कुछ सीक्रेट एक पॉइंट होता था कि, और वो हर जीडी बजाते वही पॉइंट उस कंपनी के हिसाब से अडैप्ट करके बता देता था. So that's what happened in marketing GD, but task का GD was very different. So they call their GD a chairman GD. So what they do is so let's say there's 8 panelists, right? Like there's 8 students coming in for the GD, then that means there'll be 8 rounds. So in every round they'll give you a different topic, and in every round one person from that group of people will get to be chairman. So the role of the chairman is to give structure in the first 1 minute. You should discuss around these parameters, and then at the end of the discussion, summarize इसने क्या बोला. That is the role of the chairman. And as a panelist, you talk about whatever topic's been given. And these topics, they're not necessarily very MBA. Like many of them are like, for example, one of the topics that I got in my GD was the chairman is the commissioner of police of the city. Incidents of violence against women have gone up by 2x in the city, and people are afraid to go out in the dark. So as the police of the city, this is your top strategy team, you're the commissioner of police, what are you going to do? This is not exactly a business case, right? So like you can apply some concepts here and there, but what they wish to see in that video is what are your communication skills like, and B, do you have presence of mind or not? Can you adapt to any topic and say something about it, something useful? So if there are 8 panelists, there'll be 8 rounds. ऐसे करके everybody will get the chance to be chairman once, and 7 times panelist के जितने भी लोग हैं. So this would be your third round, application round, online test, GD. Then there's a presentation round. So presentation round is if it's summer internship के time पे जब pass है, then they give you a Harvard वाला case to solve and you present on it. If it's your final placement, then you have to present your summer internship. What did you do in your summer internship? So 20-minute present karo, then there'll be 20 minutes of cross questioning, and so that happens, and then there's the final interview. And final interview will be usually it's a lengthy interview. Plus, from reading your application form till your interview round, all of these are conducted only by CXOs of the Tata group. So they'll specially like fly in and fly out for your moderating your GD or whatever your interview presentation.
What is CXQs? You said they're conducted by CXQs. Tata group.
So CXOs.
C2 topic. They're giving so much focus to it that they're giving their C-level people to.
Yeah. So my final interview was conducted by the CFO of Tata Play and the CHRO of Tata Technology. And there were also other C-suite, like, so there was the Air India, there was somebody from the Air India C-suite, then Tata Steel के 2-3 लोग आए थे. So almost every Tata Group company में से कोई ना कोई major group companies में से कोई ना कोई आया ही था. Even for moderate GD, there was somebody from that level.
That's very impressive. And how many people did they select from IIM Calcutta in your batch?
3.
And you're one of them. So that's pretty selective. At least I remember again, I wasn't part of the placements, but I don't think we had Tata tasks come to our batch to hire, right?
I think it was just the year and the sign of the times. We had, like Anindya was talking about, ICICI took about 35 plus people from our batch of 180.
Oh, wow.
On day -1 or -2 or -n. I mean, I was place com, but then as place com normally works, is place com in year 2, everyone is doing their own placements. And then place com of year 1 is doing year 2's placements and so on.
Yeah.
That's how the whole thing goes. I was probably the only second year place com member who was Vela during placement times, because at that time it wasn't that common, and maybe it is now, is I had a PPO and I decided sit out of placement.
But pretty common, like that's usually a fourth of the batch sits out.
Yeah. So now it's very common, but this is like 25 kind of years ago. Some people used to get placements from their summer internship, some didn't, and then a few took him and so on. And not everyone, even after getting a PPO, sat out of placement. So I was one of those जिसके वो तीनों tick marks हो गए हैं कि sitting out of placement, PPO भी मिल गया और कुछ नहीं है, और वो सिर्फ basically वो placement room से इधर उधर जा रहा है कि जो stressed batchmates हैं, अगर वो smoker हैं तो उनको सुट्टा पकड़ा रहा है जला के, अगर वो non smoker है तो उनको वैसे generally cheer up कर रहा है, that kind of a thing. So I still remember that was my only recollection of our placements, because I didn't sit in there.
So you joined TAS in 2023, September Caspas.
No, our joining happened in June.
So it's been a year now.
Yeah.
And how much of that has been training? When did you actually start the real job?
So we joined on 22nd June. And so they have, since they've modeled it after the IIS system, they follow a lot of things which are similar to the IIS. So पहले वो भारत दर्शन कराया, of course, from a Tata angle. So we did that. So that lasted around 20 days. Then we have a stint. So the way the program works is that in your first year, you do 4 stints lasting 3 months each. So 3 months and 3 into 3 or 8 2 months. And it's with different companies, different domains. And then you have your final placement, and in which you choose one company, one domain, one role, and you get settled in that company. What task gives us is it gives us mobility. So 1 year down the line, if I want to switch, I can switch. Wo portal pe the roles come up again every year, and if we want to switch, we can switch. So of course, a lot of people, most staff officers that I know, especially my seniors, they've stuck around to their first company for at least 2 to 3 years. But in some cases where या तो कोई बहुत अच्छी opportunity दूसरे company में आ गई है, या they're really having a bad time in this company, then they choose to leave within a year, after a year, 1 year.
So tell me, which Bharat Darshan kaisa tha? Did they take you to like different Tata factories in different states? Is that?
Yeah. So it started with, they have a Tata Management Training Center in Pune. That's where we started TNTC. We spent a week there. There, again, lots of C-suite officials from different Tata companies came in, and they would give us presentations on their company and why we should join their company. So they would present to us online, and then we would have like a Q&A, we would have dinners with them, lunches with them. So this lasted for around a week. Then we left on our Bharat Darshan tour. So all the iconic Tata locations, so Bombay House, Hostel mein Titan and Tanishq factories. Then they took us to Gujarat. So all around, chemical state, जितने भी main Tata companies हैं, उनके production sites पे, and any other like places where they have either some relics that they want to show us, where there's some history behind it. So essentially the goal there is to, of course, the first is for us to see all of this and gain experience out of this, and then to bond with our batch, because we are all traveling around together. So it really helps us, have multiple experiences together. So
and how many people were traveling together? Kitne batchmates the?
40.
Okay. So Tata hires around 40 CAS officers every year?
Yeah, so basically around 40 रहता है. And also they don't have a college-wise criteria. Ki, okay, usually, I mean, consulting companies have this thing, ki, okay, we hire around 14 from this place, 15 from this place, and they go in with that mentality, ki, per college is there. So TAS in my batch, they didn't hire anyone from Indore. So they went for the process. So unka rationale is this, ki, okay, somewhere around 40 total number रखेंगे. It can go below that, it can go above that, simply based on whether they like the candidates or not. So in fact, the batch above me, like my senior batch, they were 26. So and they didn't like बहुत सारे colleges उन्होंने hire नहीं किया था because they simply felt कि candidates सही नहीं लगे. So in my batch, I think the biggest campus like in terms of hiring was HP Jain. क्योंकि वहाँ से I think 4 लोग आए हैं. It varies every year, depends on their mood. उनको कैसे लगे candidates.
From Ahmedabad and Bangalore?
A से इस बार I think in my batch there were 3. B से there were 2.
So you guys do the Bharat Darsham and then you guys do 3-month internships in 3 companies and then 1 2-month internship in the 4th Tata company, right?
So it's not exactly an internship because we get the same authority as a full-time employee. So while we have a guide, so we have a reviewer and an appraiser. The reviewer is typically a C-suite official and appraiser is either a VP level or an AVP level person. And we have a project. So in that sense, it's like an internship. But we are treated like a full-time employee. Like we get our ID card, email and everything as a full-time employee would. And the system is, so before we get these things allocated, they make us fill a form where they ask us for our top 3 companies and top 3 domains. So company तो availability के basis पर रहता है थोड़ा, but domains they try to match. कि जो 3 domain experience करने मुझे वो तीनों तो मिल जाए. And in that, of course, usually what they do is एक stint ऐसा देंगे which is way out of your comfort zone. So for me, I'd asked for marketing, brand management, and strategy. These are my 3 domains. So they gave me Air India was brand launch. Then Tata Chemicals was export strategy to strategy हो गया. But then उनको था कि एक तो spin ball डालना है तो उन्होंने Tata Steel में supply chain ले लिया. Supply chain and financial modeling. So they've done this with, I mean, I think all of my peers in TAS, they've done this with everyone. कि किसी को कुछ एक हटके दे दिया, they're very uncomfortable. So they did this. So we do that in the first year. Then we have our final placement process. So approximately 100 to 150 roles खुलते हैं, and we can apply to any 3 in the final placement. And it's one round interview ले लेते हैं. There'll be team के साथ apply किया, and if you get selected, you're selected. That's pretty much it.
So if they're only taking in around 40 students each year on other over 100 roles खुल रहा है, so that means the demand is higher than the supply of people, right?
But they don't look at it that way. They look at it this way: we want to give the TAS people enough choices. So most of those roles are also specially opened for us. कि इस साल के बैच के लिए उन्होंने खुलवाए हैं, वैसे भी रहता है. So it's not just roles available out in the public. So while role वो ऐसा होगा जिसमें और लोग होंगे who have been hired laterally or they've come through other channels, but that role may not be available at that time. But हमारे लिए एक्स्ट्रा उन्होंने खुलवाया हो, वैसा रहता है सिचुएशन.
If you look at the senior leadership of Tata Group of companies, are most of them TAS people who grow up to be the C-level officers in these companies? अगर तुम इनके
many are. So I think the last number I heard was around 35%. There are a lot of TAS people who are CXOs.
And how many Tata companies are there now?
117, I think. 117.
Wow. And how many of these are public companies? I mean, how many of these companies actually feel the pressure of quarterly results, growth, and the capitalism system? How many of these companies are being run more as foundations or non-profits?
So public, I think there's around 40. Close to 40. I don't have the exact number, but it's close to 40. The rest are still under either the tutelage of one company where it's like a sub-company under the company, or they're run as a non-profit.
Okay. And I apologize for my ignorance, but what I understand is that Ratan Tata is the guy who manages all this, correct? Like he's do all the companies report into him, or like how does it work? Like what's the organization chart like? Like who's at the top? Like where does the buck stop?
So it used to be like that earlier, but things have changed a lot because also, I mean, back in the license Raj era, then they could just, if Titan wants to, gather the highest market share in watch market. So Tata Steel ने भी पैसा दे दिया, Motors ने भी दे दिया, and they just obliterate the competition. So those days are gone because now each and every company is an individual company on its own, and they pay the head. So Tata Sons is the head of the group. So they pay Tata Sons for using the Tata logo and the Tata branding. So they're all individual companies on their own. But of course, the Tata Group thing ties them together. They all share the same code of conduct. They all share. They are all. They get broad level directions from the Tata Group board of directors. So right now, the chairman is N. Chandrasekharan. So he is at the head of it now. It's not he directly manages TAS as such. ऐसा नहीं है. TAS is a organization on its own. Tata Administrative Services is a registered organization on its own. Now its main care, its only function is to hire TAS officers, because at the end of the day, it is a human resource. They secure us through these schools. So there's 3 modes of entry. Uske through they secure us, and we have our own. Like TAS has its own CHRO, VP of HR, head of HR, executive HR. But they're all HR, and because there's no business vertical to it. So they do that task, and overall, yes, it does fall under Tata Sons and reports to the head of the Tata Group, but it's not like they're actively managing it.
Okay, so I remember reading corporate strategy. That was one of my favorite, or like at least जब मैं किसी को कोई मुझसे पूछता तुमने किसमें what did you specialize in? So I say I specialized in corporate strategy because I feel like strategy is what is important. It's more important than operations. That's my at least. The world has gone for and against conglomerates, right? There have been times when the world has said, like, look, conglomerates do very well. And there have been times when it's been better if the companies have been divided and sold as smaller entities. That seems to have unlocked the value potential. Now, it seems like Tata is an interesting combination where he's saying that, look, each of these 40 companies are public in their own right. So it's not like a conglomerate. It's not like all 40 companies are divisions of this one public company, right? It could have been organized in a way that there's one public company and then there are 40 subsidiaries, none of which are public. So they don't get to face the pressure of capitalism. So it's an interesting model where there are 40 public companies, so they're not a conglomerate. But then they're also getting the code of conduct from Tata Sons, and they are getting and they're paying to Tata Sons for using the Tata branding, which is and does Tata Sons then also own equity in each of these companies?
In some they do, in some they don't. They mostly own some. Like it ranges from some of them are like at a 90% level, 80-90%, but in most it's around a 20 to 30% level. So they are a major, if not the biggest, but they are a major shareholder in all of these companies.
Very interesting. Because see, the way GE used to be a conglomerate where, well, GE is one company, and they're doing IT also, they're doing GE Finance also, they're making refrigerators also, they're making TVs and ovens, but everybody reports into one GE and it all goes into the financial statements of one GE. But then slowly they said, well, that the conglomerate doesn't work, too many inefficiencies. So they started to break out into smaller companies and sell them out. But when they sold the companies out, they changed their names. They don't call themselves Tata Steel. Like, they don't call themselves GE Finance anymore or GE Home Appliances. Like they change the names. But or they might not have. Some of them might not have. But it's interesting how Tata is trying to walk this fine line. And is Tata Sons itself public, or is that not public?
It is. Okay.
Okay, so the Tata Sons itself is public. And so the performance of Tata Sons can then be, like, you can actually predict how Tata Sons will do depending on how the composite 40 companies are.
Oh, wait, actually I was wrong. So it isn't public yet. It will be by next year.
Okay. So you'll actually be able to predict how Tata Sons will do each year, depending on how the 40 constituent companies are doing, correct?
Yes, for the most part, yeah.
And how big is Tata Sons? Because if it has a board of directors, like is that in itself a huge organization, or that's a very thin management layer?
No, it's fairly thin. So Tata officers they also get placed in Tata Sons. Like they also bring in a couple of roles. So most of the roles are very advisory in nature. So for example, one of the roles where I call is with the digital team. So what they do for their clients, to speak of Tata Group companies only, so they would bring in digital innovation ideas for each Tata company, and then it's up to that Tata company to implement it or not implement it. But they do they do advisory work for the company.
share with us a little bit more about what did you see when you went through 4 different stints, like 3 months and then a 2-month stint. Did you see a common thread across these Tata companies? Did you see culturally there's a common thread, or you didn't feel that?
No, I did feel that. There is a common thread. Now, it varies. So I worked at TCS, Air India, Steel and Chemicals. So now Air India is a far more modern company, so as to speak. Even though it comes from that ex-government situation, they have modernized quite a fair bit. By modern, I mean things are faster. Occasionally, like the decision-making process is faster. And of course, they have a transformation department which is responsible for making these.
When you worked in Air India, Mumbai में Air India Tower है, वहाँ पे काम किया था?
नहीं, गुड़गांव में head office.
अच्छा, so they have shifted the head office to Gurgaon now. Let me tell you, Miglani was the consultant. He used to sit at the top floor of the Air India Tower and was responsible for the Indian Airlines merger, correct, Miglani?
This was back in the day. I had an office for a few months, which was on top of the highest floor, the 22nd floor of the Air India Tower, which was, in my opinion and in my recollection, as big as a hockey field. But of course, maybe I'm exaggerating.
And you were the main consultant responsible for the merger of these two airlines, correct?
A main local consultant who was starting off on the merger that was given to the consulting firm.
And
so this was like nearly 20 years ago, 18 years ago. 20 maths बहुत खराब है यार, बहुत खराब है.
So now the head office has moved to Gurgaon. So you work from Gurgaon head office.
वो एयर इंडिया टावर का क्या हुआ?
They've shut it down as far as I remember.
वो बहुत ही रियल एस्टेट में पैसा मिला होगा ना?
अब उसका figure तो I don't know.
So you think that you felt there was a common cultural theme between, say, Air India, then when you go to TCS, and what was the third and fourth company where you entered that?
Steel and Chemicals. Tata Steel, Tata Chemicals.
And you felt there was a common theme, though different companies are at different levels of modernization. तुम कह रहे हो कि Air India you felt was much more modern than the others.
So Steel and Chemicals were far more traditional, so as to speak. Like a lot of people would call it sarkari. I don't see it that way necessarily, but are more bureaucratic in the decision making, lengthier chain. So that definitely was there. So, but all in all, a common theme was this key. Of course, there'll be good people and bad people in every organization. Like people you like, people you don't like. But what I found common was that even those who you don't like or who you feel are not good people, they would still abide by a common norm of being polite, being kind, and so on. Now, in reality, you may feel that this person is pretending, but that's also worth something, I feel. If the person feels compelled to pretend to adhere to that sort of culture, so that is also something. So that common thread was there across all the companies. And it's there in this company as well. So I'm in Titan right now, so it's there here as well.
So, and then you finally came to Titan just this month, right?
Yeah.
And what's your role at
Titan अभी सिर्फ घड़ियां बनाता है, because there was that Beethoven Titan ad that I've seen over and over in the last many years. वो Beethoven वाला ad अभी भी चल रहा है?
I don't think it's running like it's on air anymore. But Titan is actually, TCS is number one in terms of revenue if you look at all the Tata companies. So it's also because, I mean, IT consulting here and Tata they have got a lot of clients abroad. The number two is Titan. So number two is Titan.
Titan is basically a watch manufacturer or gold, or what is Titan doing now?
So Titan has a lot of brands under it. So it's Titan, then there's Tanishq, then there's Tanaira. Tanaira is sarees, mostly like Indian wear, female Indian wear. Then there's Zoya, which is also
like jewelry, sari, clothes, and everything is under the Titan brand.
Yes. So, and then the jewelry, maybe they have Tanishq, Zoya, Mia. So they have three brands for jewelry. And one is, and then you have Titan. And Titan ke andar bhi there's a lot of brands. So you have Sonata, Fast Track, Titan, Nebula, Xylus. So there's a lot of sub-brands within Titan, within watches as well. And apart from that, they also have the license for distribution of multiple international brands like Tommy Hilfiger, Anne Klein. They have it for Pulis, Coach. Olivia Burton. So there's a huge host of brands that they work with, and of course with Indian Sagar.
Very interesting. And watches have a very interesting phenomenon to them. Like when we graduated from IIMs at that time, the watches served some kind of utility because not everyone were carrying phones in their pocket all the time. But then they've lost the utility function, but now the jewelry aspect of watches has come up. Like people are wearing watches as fashion statements and as a jewelry instead of for the utility.
Or the smart aspect of watches.
Sure, or the smart aspect of watches. Does Titan have some smartwatches, Anindya?
Fast Track and Titan both have smartwatches.
Okay. And I would not, if it was a case competition and somebody asked me, these are the 40 Tata companies, tell me which are the top 3 revenue makers, I would not have placed Titan in top 3. So very it's outside my understanding that Titan is actually the second biggest revenue maker after TCS. And which one is the third and fourth? I would have expected Air India to be in top 3, right? With so many international flights, the revenue must be pretty high.
I don't think it's in the top 3 though. Let me just check. I have a list here.
Yeah.
And done this research while I was preparing for task. I've forgotten all about it.
But revenue-wise, airline has to be in the top, right? Maybe not profit-wise or anything.
Profit-wise, so definitely Air India is not going to be...
Nowhere. It'll be like right at the bottom, I'm sure.
It'll be close to the bottom. It'll be in minus.
Yeah, but revenue-wise, तो मतलब मोटा पैसा airline कमाती है. And I'm saying this. So back in the day, when we what Viks was talking about, when we started the Air India Indian Airlines merger back in 2005, 6, 7, somewhere then, is पैसा तो बहुत था, profit तब भी नहीं था, but then there was government control then.
Right.
And there's a reason why you can't make profit because you don't have the liberty to make all the profits.
Right.
So there are restrictions, but अब तो वो restrictions नहीं है.
Actually, TCS हार गया है. There's a new king of revenue, Tata Motors.
अच्छा.
Very interesting.
Is that
Motors?
Yeah, sorry, go on.
So it's Motors, TCS, and then it is okay. Titan has also fallen नीचे थोड़ा सा now. So my research was उस time का, which was my hiring. 2024, the new data is different. So Tata Motors, there is
cars, right?
Tata Motors
is cars or also trucks?
Cars and trucks.
So trucks ऊपर है या cars ऊपर है? कहाँ पे है? Why is
passenger vehicle? So they haven't separated the company. They're planning to separate the company, but right now it's both passenger and commercial vehicles.
I mean, the reason I'm asking is for my understanding कि India में sitting like 5,000 miles away, कि passenger cars, Indica or whatever the new Indica is that performing well or is it the trucks जिसके पीछे लिखा होता है कि मतलब वो
they're both equally performing well. So they've come up with a very large range. So they're particularly in the mid segment in that 8 to 10 lakh category. And then they have that 19-20 lakh wala category. So there's Tata Harrier and Tata Punch. These two cars have been performing phenomenally. These have been massive revenue generating.
EV में काफी forays करे हैं recently, right?
हाँ. So they have released a lot of Tata Tigor cabs. So ये जो Blue Smart वगैरह के जितने भी cabs हैं, so Blue Smart is, it's a cab aggregator like Uber and all that, but it's only electric vehicles. So they also like 90% of their fleet is Tata Tigor. Because Tata Tigor is at that super cheap price point with decent performance. 5 lakh की गाड़ी है EV मिल रहा है जो इंडिया में भी
Wow. 5 lakh की गाड़ी EV मिल रहा है. That's like $7,000 for an EV car.
Yeah. And it has a decent range also, run range also. It's somewhere close to, I think, 150 to 200 kilometers on a single charge.
What? Yeah, इतना तो Tesla देती है actually.
So 150 तो दे रही है.
They claim 300 or whatever, 500.
Yeah.
हाँ.
But उसके बाद वो 150 किलोमीटर के बाद लगता है कि यार पढ़ लेती है.
तो इसको भी I think वही 110-120 के बाद जवाब देने लगती है, but उतना चल रहा है. And cabs तो कैब वाले तो खुश हैं.
Nice, very nice, very nice. Acha, Anindya, so I want to take a step back now.
Okay.
Well, we've done Tata, we've done IIM, we've done a lot of things. I want to ask you two questions, and I think both are interrelated. What's next for you, and where do you see yourself 30 years from now? और डाइसी क्वेश्चन है, मतलब मेरे को खुद नहीं पता है, मेरे को आज भी नहीं पता है कि मैं 5 years from now, तो 30 years from now तो बहुत ही बड़ा क्वेश्चन है, बट बोल दो जो भी बोलना है.
It's a सोचने वाला question हो गया. So the first question is, could you just repeat the first part again?
No, the first part is कि what next? So next.
Okay, what's next?
2-3 years from now, and then the long term question is कि 30 साल बाद, और 30 साल बाद नहीं 5 साल बाद बता दो यार, मेरे को खुद नहीं पता 5 साल बाद क्या करना है.
ये प्रॉपर इंटरव्यू वाला STLT कैटेगरी ऑफ शॉर्ट टर्म.
नहीं, मतलब खुल के बताओ जो भी बोलना और हम एडिट कर देंगे एंड में.
नहीं तो ऐसा कुछ तो शॉर्ट टर्म है तो आई वुड से कि आई वांट टू स्टिक टू Titan. In the next 2 to 3 years, I think I'll be with Titan, and unless there's some great opportunity that comes by, I think it will be Titan only, because in my 1 month here, I've been enjoying myself. So I think it will continue that way. So career wise, I think short term by long term, I would say long term again. If you're looking 5-6 years down the line, I think I'll most probably still be with TAP because I'm satisfied with the perks, with the salary and everything. So I think I'll still be here, but of course by then I would want to have explored at least one more company apart from Titan. So by that time, and if you're asking or with other long term, then maybe sometime down the line I would want to have my own company, have my own startup, venture into that side of things, because that's a side I haven't explored before. Because ये होगा, I know for sure कि after 7, if I stick to the same role, same job, 7-8 साल 10 साल हो जाए, then I will feel that need to, okay, I can now take that risk of going out and seeing what I can do on my own. But again, that is dependent on one fact. If I'm with TAS and every time I change a company or I change a role, or even if it's the same role, if I see myself facing new challenges, learning every day, अगर उस type का situation ही चल रहा है, then I might end up sticking to that. So a lot of the people I've known, so actually one of my mom's school friends was a Tata officer. She was an A graduate. So she stuck to the Tata group for 20 years. And she was someone who was very, very motivated and always looking for new challenges. And she found she found all of those within the Tata group. For a lot of people, it may not work out the same way. For me, it may not happen the same way. But as of now, I think it will help me learn a lot, especially because of the number of industries there are. So they are there in every possible industry. Like मुझे किसी भी sector का, even if I have a startup idea. So let's say tomorrow I feel like, okay, I can do this. I can have a company based on this. So there would be a Tata company which would offer similar challenges and a similar learning. उस industry में वो होंगे ही कहीं ना कहीं. So I would want to have that experience before I go into the entrepreneurship domain. For example, if tomorrow I say कि I want to have an app or a digital platform for something. Or if I say I want to venture into a classical कि भाई मुझे luxury chips बेचने हैं, कुछ भी करना है. So I know for sure कि okay, TCPL will give me that chips बेचने का experience. If I want something digital, so Tata Digital, Tata New, Tata Play, these companies will give me that digital experience. Until and unless I get a startup idea, and even if I do get a startup idea, so then I'll want to experience that within the Tata group first.
And Anindya, you must be very young, like 25 now, right? I just don't see this in America. I just don't see 25-year-olds with so much of education, work experience, motivation. I just don't see that. 25-year-olds here are still trying to figure out their life. They've just finished their undergrad and they are just mentally, they're much more younger than our Indian counterparts. I think we do much more in the first 25 years of our life than Americans.
I think that also holds true because of the thing. Like India में तो है कि मास्टर्स नहीं किया तो जॉब नहीं मिलेगी. तो वो एक हो जाता है माइंडसेट कि भाई करना ही है वरना you'll be branded a fake in society. Whereas people who I know in America, उनके लिए a lot of them, if they have some sort of plan, they're comfortable कि high school के बाद UG भी नहीं किया. They're happy doing that. which is unimaginable in India. कि bachelor's मिलती है.
So Anindya, एक बात बताओ. So that must be a very good paymaster. It gives out like approximately 1 crore to the graduates it hires, because I googled your name and I saw that you got a 1 crore package.
Clickbait है वो. I told you last time also कि वो college दुनिया, there's a company college दुनिया, and I've done a couple of interviews with them. तो उनको था कि भाई व्यूज लाने हैं अभी कैसे भी, तो उन्होंने डाल दिया 1 crore पैकेज IIM Calcutta और मेरे शक्ल डाल दी. तो we were discussing placements in IIM Calcutta. तो IIM Calcutta में 1 crore का पैकेज होता है, ये बात डिस्कस हुई थी, एंड कि विच कंपनी गेव इट. आई डिडंट गेट इट, ठीक है, बट वो उन्होंने पुल करने के एंड इट वर्क. मतलब दे गॉट सम 700K व्यूज आउट ऑफ इट. So they milked that thumbnail for each penny, and वो तो उन्होंने पूरा अच्छे से यूटिलाइज किया. तो
अच्छा ये बताओ कि अगर हम ये ट्रेलर में डाल दें फिर हमें 700K व्यूज मिलेंगे?
If you're putting in something that clickbaity, तो I don't know about 700K, but you should, because college dunia back then had some 2K 3K subscribers. So 2K 3K subscribers के लिए reaching that, it's a pretty good deal. They got their money's worth.
You used the sentence they got their money's worth. Did they pay you to interview you?
Oh no. I did it to see, but उनका जो भी वो studio, they called me to a studio. They had an editor and all of that. So उसका जो production खर्चा गया, like proper, they had a proper setup.
So let's talk about this. What's the highest package in IIM Calcutta these days?
1.4, 1.3 PR, 1.4.
This is usually finance jobs.
Typically finance. Then there's one company, it's a real estate company, IMAR. So IMAR comes in with a Dubai ka role and they give above 1 CR.
And lowest kya hai, Anindya? Like not lowest, but typical like 20 percentile.
I would say in that 22-21 lakh PTC range.
Acha, so that's not bad, right? 20-25 lakh and 1 CR, that kind of a range.
So of course there would be some people, like the last 10 people to get placed, उनका 15-16 तक CTC जाता था, but that's about it. Most of the people I know, like not just the people I know, like on an average 20 to 22 CTC सबका ही है minimum.
So your 20 percentile to 80 percentile अगर range ले लें, then it's like 20 lakh से लेके 80 lakh, that kind of a thing.
हाँ. And it's mostly our average package is 36 point something. For my batch it was 36 point something. That is mostly because of the finance people. Because finance में there's like companies coming in like 70-80 lakh CTC वाले भी बहुत सारे companies आते हैं. So I think core team is around 50ish should go to these top roles, and that really skews the average.
अच्छा एक actually question है कि I have a reason to ask this from our batch कि जब लोग फाइनेंस रोल्स में या बैंक्स में एक एक्स पैकेज दिखाते हैं उसमें हाथ में कितना मिलता है? Is that really worth?
Yeah, at least it used to happen when we were graduating.
Yeah, I know.
At one number, and the real number had a big distance between them.
No, of course, no, that could happen.
I know someone who had like 2.5 times my package, was only getting, and I saw that as only, was getting 10% more than in hand on a monthly check.
That still happens. And the lower you go in terms of MBA college, because the lower you go, the more desperate they are to show placement stats to attract more candidates. So बहुत ही मतलब hard.
IIM to IIM, same batch to same batch की comparison कर रहा हूँ. Same placement, finance placement versus whatever XYZ placement.
So usually अभी भी क्या
has that been killed already?
No. So that difference is still there. So for example, I remember Avendas ka package was CTC was 50, but it was 25 base, 25 variable. Achha. Now the one of my friends actually went to Avendas, so उसको 25 variable में से 20 मिला भी था actually. So he did get it, but monthly check में अगर देखें, so it's not. It is just 25. And वैसे you have that same system in a lot of other companies, especially startups जो आते हैं. They'll have a huge chunk for ESOP. Or some other retention bonus that is vested over some 6-7 years. तो ये होता है. And I know कि जो lower tier colleges है वहाँ पे तो it is too much. मतलब there was some company which came into the college NMIMS last month, and they had a package of around 60 lakhs, which is unheard of at NMIMS. वो उनका highest placement था, of which 35 to 40 lakhs is kidnapping insurance because the role was in Africa.
Oh my God.
So
We've got
the
35-40 lakhs kidnapping insurance force for competition में add कर दिया.
हाँ CTC में ऐड कर दिया. एंड अ लॉट ऑफ कंपनीज डू दिस कि मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस अगर 5-10 लाख का करा रहे हैं उसको भी सीटीसी में दिखा दिया. तो एट द टियर 1 कॉलेजेस दे टेल द कंपनी कि यू कांट डू दैट.
तो 10 lakh का medical insurance करा रहे हैं, that doesn't mean the company is paying 10 lakhs for the medical insurance. They might only be paying 5% to 10% of that as insurance premium.
Yes, of course.
So the insurance premium को CTC में add करो, I can understand that. But I don't understand adding the whole value of the insurance policy itself.
विक्स मार्केटिंग है यार, मार्केटिंग है. प्लेसमेंट में कंपनी जाती है, दैट इज आल्सो मार्केटिंग बाय द एचआर की मार्केटिंग है.
हाँ, it is. So वही कि tier 1 colleges eliminate all of that. Like they straight up tell the candidate कि they don't include this in the CTC. So then it reflects on our portal कि okay, medical insurance है इतना, but it's not part of the CTC. But in lower colleges, everything is game. So that happens.
So IIM में नहीं होता अब. Calcutta, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, at least में नहीं होता.
No, like we don't have medical insurance and all of these things in our CTC. But that fixed versus variable gap is still there. मतलब finance में भी है. You will find that in a lot of companies, especially startups में. Like I remember, I think it was either Swiggy or Zomato. इन दोनों में से कोई एक था which came in with a very decent looking number, but half of it was performance bonus. And उनका तो सीनियर से हमने सुना था कि उनका परफॉर्मेंस बोनस जनरली उतना खास नहीं मिलता है. तो दैट स्टिल हैपन. बट ऑल इन ऑल वो इतना जजमेंट मोस्ट ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स गेट इन दैट इन्फॉर्मेशन कि ओके अगर वेरिएबल इतना है इसमें से एक्चुअली कितना मिलेगा साल के एंड में, लोग देते हैं कि नहीं देते हैं, ये इन्फो सीनियर से लोग सोच लेते हैं.
Actually, one very interesting point you mentioned is startups, because startups आजकल बहुत हो गए हैं at IIMs. ठीक है, हमारे टाइम पे तो बिल्कुल नहीं होते थे. So in terms of your batch, IIM Calcutta, and from what you've seen at other IIMs, कैसा है कि मतलब are people really interested in startups? Are people not very interested in startups? Do they want stable jobs at big companies? Do they want to take that risk? How does that split work?
Most people aren't into startups. Most of them aren't. Very few who are particularly into product management. क्योंकि प्रोडक्ट मैन में ऑप्शंस कम है, बिकॉज देयर इज अ माइक्रोसॉफ्ट, गूगल, एटलासियन, एंड द लिस्ट सॉर्ट ऑफ एंड्स देयर टियर 1 का. और देन देयर इज media.net है, देयर इज सेल्सफोर्स है. So but these are all they hire selectively, and product management का पाप बहुत बच्चों में रहता है as compared to the roles on offer. So there is startups which are coming in with those roles because there's a role match there, so they opt for those roles. But apart from product management, बाकी most of the batch they don't want startups. तो स्टार्टअप का सीन है कि अच्छा और कहीं नहीं लगा तो यहाँ जाना पड़ा. लाइक अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल सी इट दैट वे. मोस्ट पीपल वांट एस्टैब्लिश्ड कंपनीज, एंड जो भी डोमेन में उन्होंने डिसाइड किया उसको उनको चाहिए कि ये वाली कंपनी मिल जाए. तो अब जैसे somebody wants consulting, they'll aim for MBBK. Somebody wants marketing, they'll aim for HUL, PMG. Nobody will think of startup.
क्या बोलता है विक्स?
सही है यार. मुझे तो मैं तो अभी भी शॉक में हूँ कि the value of your medical policy is added by tier 2 colleges as part of your compensation. And this company added the Africa में kidnapping insurance as part of your compensation. So this is too much.
ये तो this went viral on Instagram, everywhere, हर जगह निकला था उनका कि भाई ये है कंपनी जाने लायक, क्या जाना. तो
and even variable compensation should not be added. Like साल के एंड में कितना बोनस मिलेगा, how can you find that?
यार वो कर सकते हो ना, मतलब we can get into a debate कि अगर वो कितना assured है, like Anindya was saying कि उसको 80% मिल गया उसका, so वो kind of assured था, right?
नहीं, assured कैसे था यार,
probability लगा के कि 50% मिलेगा, that's how life functions.
नहीं ऐसे तो कंपनी के वो आए से कि हमारी compensation 10 करोड़ की है, 1 करोड़ के, बाकी के 9 करोड़ परफॉर्मेंस.
So that's the split कि यार पैकेज 1 करोड़ का है लेकिन बाकी 9 करोड़ वो प्रोबेबिलिटी थ्योरी पे लगाओगे.
No, but even without that, CTC में वो ऐड कर रहे हैं, that's still okay. But as long as they're making that distinction कि fixed कितना है. If they tell the candidate, if the candidate knows job description में उसको दिख रहा है fixed कितना है, he should have that knowledge before the application is open. So which they do, which most companies, I would say, वो तो हमारे यहाँ पे तो रहता है कि that is compulsory for the company to declare the
component कितना वो अफ्रीकन इंश्योरेंस है वर्सेस बोनस है, वो भी अगर पता हो जाए then people can
नहीं वो बताते हैं.
people can make a choice.
No, so they tell us that. So the placement committee gives them a template कि इस पे तुम्हें सारा compensation का details देना है. So उसमें रहता है कि if you there's fixed variable and then there's any others in which they have to define it कि क्या दे रहे हो तुम exactly. So and then they determine whether it can be added to the CTC figure. So for example, if वही kidnapping insurance वाली company अगर हमारे यहाँ आई रहती, so they would have been told कि you can't add that to the CTC figure. You can mention it in others, but you can't. When we post the job on the portal, तो उसमें CTC में वो नहीं दिखाएगा. So, but वही that level of scrutiny is present mostly in tier 1 colleges. The moment you go to tier 2, there the main goal is सबको place करा दो.
The other thing I find very interesting is कि what I heard from you, कि IIM Calcutta में professors used to party with the students.
Props and so we had a very open culture and we would have parties where alumni would come in, and these are like people who are very, very senior, like 25, 30 years or senior. And they would come in and they would party with us.
At least in IIM Bangalore, I never saw any professor come to parties, you know. हमारे usually weekend parties पे, dance parties वगैरह पे कोई professor नहीं आता. There is a batchmate of mine from batch of 2000, IIM Bangalore. His name is Krishanu Rakshit. I think he's a professor at IIM Calcutta.
He was a professor. Yeah. And he's a very well-loved professor.
Achha.
Yes, I've been in one of his classes.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. What is well loved about him?
So, mostly he's known for, the classes themselves. So, he teaches really well. And उनका जो marketing का record, so we had Zoom classes in our first term जब COVID था थोड़ा. तो उनके जो notes हैं and उनके recordings जो हैं, it was shared across the batch कि this is it if you want to prepare for a marketing job. So his notes and his class का recording, and we were not supposed to record, by the way. We're not allowed to record our class. So we had 6 sections. So he was teaching 2.
Yeah, so we weren't allowed to record classes, and so he was teaching 2 out of the 6 sections. तो उन 2 सेक्शन के बच्चों ने एकदम फैला दिया था कि भाई ये है प्रोफेसर, ये बढ़िया पढ़ाते हैं. एंड तो उनका क्लास रिकॉर्ड करके बच्चे वो ड्राइव पे फाइल बना के एवरीबॉडी शेयर्ड इट. एंड देन उसके बाद पीपल द स्टूडेंट्स आल्सो मेड दिस एफर्ट कि दे डिवाइडेड इट टॉपिक वाइज, अलग अलग फाइल में डाल के. एंड देन उसके हिसाब से ये इस टॉपिक का ये है, तो अगर इफ यू आर प्रेपिंग फॉर मार्केटिंग पीपल वुड लिसन टू हिज लेक्चर कि ये फोन्स में लगा के. हाँ, he was very well loved for his classes, and he was he was a reasonable professor. So as in Calcutta में तो mostly ये थोड़ा था कि deadlines are sacrosanct, you can't ever be late. So if you had a genuine reason, there were some profs who would still not give you that leeway. So but he was a reasonable person. So ये 2 factors थे, and also he was not a harsh grader. ये भी था. So these 3 things combined, and he was well known.
Nice. Miglani, you used to be the DJ at the parties. I think we had Pawan Mamidi come to one of the parties. Other than that, none of the professors ever came to our elsewhere parties, right?
I think many professors came, and incognito, like they call it. But then many future professors came to our parties, if you know who I mean. So
yeah, Mukherjee and
so I think I don't want to name names. I think professors used to come to our parties in elsewhere. Incognito was the key word of today's time. But आते थे plain clothes में, not like looking like a Bobby. I'm using the term in the from the UK. यहाँ के लंदन पुलिस में इनको बॉबी बोलते हैं.
And how is the food in IIM Calcutta? तुम्हारे dorms में food वगैरह अच्छा है?
It's okay. So there were 2 hostels. So we had 4 hostels. तो एक hostel का अच्छा था, एक का okay था और 2 का घटिया था.
अच्छा.
So in fact we had a huge incident around one of the mess hostels, hostel messes.
So क्या हुआ था? I want to know only. ठीक है, घटिया था, एवरेज था, ठीक है. जो अच्छा था, what was the benchmark कि ये अच्छा है?
कि मतलब it doesn't like it tastes good and इससे पेट खराब भी नहीं हो रहा है. And by good, I don't mean it was excellent. But वहां जाके the bar was so low कि मजा क्या आता था कि रामानुजन हॉस्टल का खाना खा लिया जिसने, तो people used to be happy about it. So
I kind of, मतलब बाकी तीन सुन के I just wanted to put it in perspective from Viks because he is from Calcutta और वो Calcutta के लिए थोड़ा सा वो nostalgic हो रहा था कि खाना कैसा था and all that. तो मुझे ऐसे लगा कि just to put it in perspective कि बॉस पेट नहीं खराब हो रहा, that is what he is saying.
अच्छा, तो क्या इंसिडेंट क्या हुआ मेस में बताना चाहिए?
So basically Calcutta में everything is union run. And then like all the laborers, all the workers, तो mess workers भी जितने हैं, they were all through the union. तो उनका कुछ रूल होता है कि around 80% or so staff also they have to be from वो union होता है, and TMC का पूरा कंट्रोल है उसके ऊपर. So वहाँ पे एक हॉस्टल है न्यू हॉस्टल करके, ironically which is the worst hostel of all the lot. तो न्यू हॉस्टल का जो मेस था वहां पे तमाशा हो गया था कि people had found like वो स्क्रबर की तार वार कि there were metal wires in the food, and then there was like some insect in the food. तो ये सब हुआ. तो then so we have an option where we can opt out of the mess. We can opt out of the mess and then we can sign up with any other hostel का mess. So all the students from new hostel collectively they signed out of the mess and they started dealing with either other messes या खुद का बना रहा है कोई Swiggy Zomato ही कर रहा है. So जब इतना हो गया कि so and we had complained to the admin and everything about it. तो admin का यही response हर चीज में आता था कि campus is a student run campus, student government को पूरी पावर थी, तुम लोग करो सॉर्ट, रियल लाइफ मैनेजमेंट क्राइसिस से करो सॉर्ट तुम लोग. तो उसके बाद फिर उन्होंने यही किया. तो जब हो गया कि ऑलमोस्ट एवरीबडी ऑप्टेड आउट, तो स्टूडेंट गवर्नमेंट सेड फिर यहाँ पे रखने की जरूरत ही क्या है मिस. तो उन्होंने बोल दिया कि ठीक है नहीं निकलो यहाँ से. तो देन दे मेड अ ह्यूज प्रोटेस्ट अबाउट इट कि यू कांट किक अस आउट, हम यूनियन वाले हैं. तो उसके बिकॉज व्हाट दे वर ट्राइंग टू डू वाज कि इनको किक आउट करके प्राइवेट एक कॉन्ट्रैक्टर से वो लोग लेके आ रहे थे. तो हम यूनियन वाले हैं ये उन्होंने नाटक किया. देन दे हेल्ड अ स्ट्राइक एंड उस स्ट्राइक में क्या किया इन्होंने कि दे बेसिकली थ्रेटेंड एवरी एम्प्लॉयर, जितने भी मेस वाले ऑन कैंपस हैं सबको थ्रेट दे दिया कि भाई तुम्हारे फैमिली को हम मरवा देंगे, ये कर देंगे, वो कर देंगे इफ यू आर ऑन कैंपस व्हेन वी आर प्रोटेस्टिंग.
So none of the messes are working.
खाली all vendors, मतलब we had Nescafe, Subway, ये सब जो दुकान में थे, कोई नहीं. Everything is closed on campus.
अच्छा, तुम्हारे में तुम्हारा कौन सा बैचमेट मैगी घर में बना रहा था और बेच रहा था? स्टार्टअप
we had a club for it.
उसके स्टार्टअप में मैं इन्वेस्ट करूंगा. जो मैगी बना के वो ₹2 का मैगी ₹5 में बेच रहा था.
There was a club for culinary club था. They used to hold these events. तो उसमें बेचते थे सामान. But
अच्छा, then how did that end with the strike and all that?
हाँ, तो ये स्ट्राइक हो गया and then पूरा कैंपस खाली हो गया and there was no food on campus. Then the extra step that happened was कि TMC के गुंडे आ गए कैंपस के दरवाजे पे और उन्होंने 100-200 लोगों ने झुंड में ला दिया कि हम जोमेटो स्विगी वालों को भी अंदर नहीं आने.
Oh my God.
तो वहां इशू हो गया कि अब people are not going to go hungry. Then they again complained to the admin. The admin again told
I'm Calcutta में TMC के गुंडे आ गए
गेट पे कि we won't let in any Swiggy Zomato people. तो जब ये हो गया then we again complained to the admin. Again the admin said crisis हैंडल करो, तुमने किया है. तो then we handled it by informing Times of India कि ऐसा हो रहा है. Then the admin came in all guns blazing. अरे ये क्या कर दिया, अरे then within a day it was sorted.
आना चाहिए था ना, हम एक्शन लेते हैं.
हाँ, अरे ये सब क्या हो गया. तो then they took action. वो बाहर पूरा जो गुंडागर्दी और सब बंद हो गया. Then the mess workers came back. They did a deal with the union कि just change this set of mess workers and there should be a policy कि if we are unsatisfied तो यूनियन वाले ही भेजो, but then इनको हटाओ जो अभी यहाँ पर है. तो then the new set of workers came in and they did well. तो उसके बाद वो सॉर्ट हो गए. तो इस पे स्टूडेंट गवर्नमेंट वालों के CV पॉइंट तो बहुत अच्छे गए. मतलब उन्होंने तो डाला है.
I have to say this कि गुजरात में प्रोहिबिशन था, कैलकाटा में यूनियन था, बैंगलोर आया तो अच्छा हुआ ना.
In Bangalore, I must say कि मेस का खाना बहुत अच्छा था यार. हमारे मेस का खाना, I used to love eating at mess food because I came from Shriram College Hostel. हमारे यहाँ जो रोटियां मिलती थी हमारे हॉस्टल नहीं बोलते तो ऐसे
बेंचमार्क मतलब लो बार.
हाँ, मतलब उन रोटियों को इतना लाइक लाता, you have to literally like exercise to break it up.
What about your Bangalore hostels? So hostels, like the living places themselves?
I had excellent experience. So, see, when we were in batch, we only had 180 students. So we lived in the hostels that were made originally with the rest of the campus. Very good architecture, very open buildings, big buildings. Like a तीन तरह की building है, and every floor only had like 20 rooms. 60 rooms in one building on 3 floors with a center courtyard. And right outside my door, there's like a 20 feet balcony, and then I see the center courtyard. So it's like, it was great. I think 10 years ago, I went back to campus for hiring. And at that time, I saw the new hostels. Or the new hostels, they have been made for space efficiency reasons. कि अचानक से 400-500 कमरे बना रहे, तो they looked more like मुझे जो feeling आई कि ये तो बहुत ही congested सी feeling आ रही थी. Yeah, मुझे मैं तो गया नहीं. I just have like a 10-second memory in my head now, because so it was 12 years ago and I didn't pay much attention to it. But it didn't seem as fun as it was for us. But for me, the food was great, the hostel was great, the dorm was great. The only problem was that Bangalore had too much pollen in it, and I had allergy issues. And at that time, I don't think our medicine walon ko, they used to give you medicine to जो कि नींद बहुत आती थी, allergy medications. So that was my only problem in Bangalore. I love the food.
एलर्जी पे एक चीज बोलूंगा कि तेरे को एलर्जी थी when you were at IIM, तब भी थी.
बहुत भयंकर एलर्जी थी. That was one of my biggest problems. Like,
then I'll stop saying whatever I was about to say.
What could you say?
Anindya, you can go ahead with your point.
I think he was going to say कि it's the stepping out of India made you realize allergies.
I was about to say a number of things, including that.
So Calcutta का तो ये था कि the hostel, barring one hostel which was Lakeview Hostel, which was of a livable size, the rest of the hostels were tiny. And tiny था. दूसरा issue ये था, it was not air conditioned. Now in Bangalore, one can understand if it's not air conditioned.
Yeah.
In Calcutta, it is horrid, especially during
even now it's not air conditioned.
It isn't. There's no air conditioning.
That doesn't make sense.
अच्छा, one more point, Viks. Imagine, हमारे time पर तो no hostel was air conditioned.
Right,
90s में no hostel was air conditioned, including Calcutta.
But Bangalore, we didn't need air condition.
Exactly, but ये बोल रहा है कि उसको problem थे कि air condition से. I'm just taking one more point on why Bangalore over Calcutta.
Sure. But मैं दिल्ली की बात बताता हूँ. जब हम श्रीराम कॉलेज में थे तो हमारे हॉस्टल्स एयर कंडीशन नहीं थे. But we were actually allowed to rent those water coolers,
Right.
हाँ यार, बड़ा अच्छा था ना वो खस लगा के. हमारे तो घर में भी वही होता था.
और हम लोग
एयर कंडीशन 90s में किसने सुना था यार एयर कंडीशन.
Now there is one problem there. हमारे यहाँ अभी
humidity, right?
हाँ, तो वाटर कूलर का कोई यूज नहीं है. Now एयर कंडीशनिंग यूनिट आता है, वो क्रोमा वगैरह एक दो कंपनीज के छोटे वाले यूनिट आते हैं where you have to पाइप बाहर निकाल लो.
Yeah.
That was not allowed by the admin.
Because of the electric bills.
Not just because of the bills. The hostels are so damn old कि वो झेल ही नहीं सकते लोड.
अच्छा, वो इलेक्ट्रिक लोड ही नहीं झेल सकते.
वायरिंग नहीं झेल सकते. So what we would do is कि वैसे allowed नहीं था, but this is what we would do कि हर wing में, which was basically 8 to 10 rooms, there would be 2 people. We would know, हमने try करके देखा कि ठीक है कितने AC लगाने पे फटता है. तो the lower that had come from the senior batches was कि 2. तो उसके बाद फिर 2 AC हम लोग sneak in करते थे दीवार के ऊपर चढ़ा के रात के 4 बजे, और वो विंग में 2 लकी बच्चे लगा लेते थे. और समर जब पीक गर्मी रहती थी तो उसमें ये होता था कि उन 2 लोगों के रूम में 4-4 लोग सो लिए.
I mean, that is called business optimization that you've experienced.
And that is now whenever every batch जो नया स्टूडेंट गवर्नमेंट बनता था वो एडमिन के सामने ये मांग डालता था कि यार AC तो होना चाहिए bare minimum है. And every year they would be like कि अरे the first thing they would say is batches before you, आज देखो CEO बन चुके हैं, उनके पास भी AC नहीं था. So as if that's a great thing. And then the second thing they would say is कि अच्छा we will see. अब वो we will see चलता था, उतने में भाई नए स्टूडेंट गवर्नमेंट आ जाता था, बच्चे ग्रेजुएट हो जाते थे. तो ये तब से चल रहा है, यही प्रथा चल रही है. and it is horrible. मतलब Calcutta weather, especially when it gets super humid and hot. And ऊपर से we have 7 Lakes campus, right? Which means only one thing, which is called humidity and mosquitoes. तो उसमें AC नहीं हो और पंखा एक people would get वो उषा का बड़ा वाला फैन, वो जो शादियों में लगता है, उस टाइप का फैन ले आते थे. And for some people, I think, but that's the thing. मुझे बहुत दिक्कत हुई थी तो मैंने तो AC लगा लिया था. But the best friend I was telling you about, he had come from an IIT where उनके रूम पे फैन भी नहीं मिला था उनको. तो he was so happy कि यार इससे बढ़िया कैंपस हो ही नहीं सकता है. And he was delighted कि यार अरे पंखा है, चल रहा है, and कि ठीक है झेल लेंगे. And when I said AC चाहिए तो उसका बस चालू हो गया है, प्राइवेट कॉलेज के बच्चे, कुछ देखा नहीं जीवन में. And then he showed me,
it's about relativity, isn't it?
हाँ, he showed me his IIT hostel room. यार वो PVC का बनाया हुआ शेड था.
कौन से?
It was in Delhi.
अच्छा भिलाई. Okay. Not
And
like
IIT भिलाई का उसका जो वो था रूम था, it was literally मतलब it was a shed. That was what it was. जो the kind of sheds you see in the construction places for workers, those type of sheds are, those makeshift sheds. So when he showed me that, I was like, what are you saying? कि यहाँ, so he was like, now you get why I'm happy here. So, and a lot of kids didn't have a problem. वो जेल जाते थे. But ये होता था कि you couldn't work. लैपटॉप पे भी अगर काम करना, पसीना टपक के कीबोर्ड में चला गया और कीबोर्ड खराब हो गया. इस टाइप के सिचुएशंस होते रहते थे.
I think that's about relativity because कौन कहाँ से आया है? You came from Delhi, so you even know coolers, right? खस वाले कूलर लगा के क्या कर सकते हैं, which I also know because I grew up in Delhi. But I remember this incident. मेरा एक a person who I won't name, very smart person, वो दिल्ली से बॉम्बे मूव किया. वो अपने साथ ना कूलर ट्रांसपोर्ट करके लेकर आया बॉम्बे. और मैं 2 साल ऑलरेडी बॉम्बे में था. एंड आई वाज लाइक, बॉस तो बॉम्बे में कूलर क्यों लेकर आया यार? दिल्ली में ड्राई हीट होती है. कूलर विद द पानी एंड द खस, इट इम्पैक्ट्स द कूल एयर. बॉम्बे में नहीं होगा ये सब. इट्स लाइक, बॉस आई नो, मैं 3 कूलर लगा रहा हूँ अपने फ्लैट में. वो 3 कूलर उसने फ्लैट में लगाए. फिर 2 महीने बाद मेरे से मिला. विक्स, दिस वाज बैक इन द डे. जो मेरे पिछली वाली कहानी थी ग्रेट पंजाब वाली, ये वो उसी जमाने की कहानी है कि यार मतलब ये क्या हो रहा है. दिल्ली वाले लोग बॉम्बे जाते हैं, ना तो अच्छा खाना मिलता है, सॉरी फ्रॉम अ दिल्ली पर्सपेक्टिव, ना तो आप कूलर लगा सकते हो ठंडी हवा के लिए. So why do you think that anyone is actually using that as the biggest selection point? लोग देख रहे हैं कि यार ये इंस्टीट्यूट अच्छा है, इसकी प्लेसमेंट अच्छी है, ये अच्छा है, वो अच्छा है, हॉस्टल रह लेंगे यार. थिंक अबाउट
इट. तुम सही कह रहे हो, रह लेंगे. और but you know, now I have a 7-year-old daughter and when she's going to college, अगर मैं तो रिसर्च करूंगा कि डॉर्म्स ठीक है कि नहीं है, और फालतू रहने क्या कोई नहीं फर्क पड़ता.
तो तू तो ये बोलेगा कि कोई नहीं फर्क पड़ता, और वो तेरे को बोलेगी कि
नहीं कोई नहीं फर्क पड़ता, इंस्टीट्यूट में जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. मैंने कोई नहीं फर्क पड़ता ये नहीं कि तुम इंस्टीट्यूट चले जाओ. मैं उसको ये कहूंगा कोई नहीं फर्क पड़ता. इतना कोई तुम्हें कोई गीता का सार नहीं दे देगा इंस्टीट्यूट. ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है जो इंस्टीट्यूट तेरे को सिखा देगा जो तुझे नहीं पता. मैंने मिनिमम स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लाइफ तो मेंटेन करनी चाहिए.
एंड द मिनिमम स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लाइफ इज एक्चुअली विद द टाइम्स. So, जो हमारे टाइम पे था लेट 90s में, जो आज है 25 साल बाद, that standard of life, the minimum has increased.
अच्छा एक बात बता मिगलानी, युवराज will be going to college in another 4-5 years. अगर सपोज उसका IIT दिल्ली में एडमिशन होता है and you check on the internet कि उसका डॉर्म रूम वैसा है, तो क्या युवराज को भेजेगा वहाँ पे कि IIT दिल्ली में?
बोलूंगा वो मना कर देगा, but let's leave that aside. उसका स्टैंडर्ड मेरे से हाई है यार. मैं सोफे पे सो जाता हूँ.
ये मेरे हिसाब से तो मिनिमम होना चाहिए. So overall it was fun. Overall IIM Calcutta was lifelong memories. Like the memories.
Yeah, of course. नहीं हॉस्टल तो would never have been मतलब वहाँ जाके जितना भी दिक्कत हुई हॉस्टल में, I would say it was like common suffering. तो सब लोगों ने बॉन्ड भी किया कि चलो साथ में गाली देंगे.
Yeah, common suffering.
मेरे को ये बताओ कि तुम्हारे बैच में 400 लोग थे, राइट? और
480.
480 और तुम्हारे उसमें से उसको ABC क्राइटेरिया बोलते हैं कि कितने ऐसे फ्रेंड्स हैं कि रात को 2 बजे फोन कर सकते हो, ऐसे कितने फ्रेंड्स हैं जिनको आप दोस्त बोलते हो, और ऐसे बाकी सब कौन है जो अक्वेंटेंसेस है. ABC क्राइटेरिया 480.
If A is the highest,
Yeah.
so I would say
रात को 2 बजे फोन करने वाले कितने दोस्त हैं 480 में?
I would say 4 to 5. 4.
Okay.
4 ऐसे हैं जो I can rely on. मतलब I know कि रात के 2 बजे मैं कॉल करूँ and if I tell them कि I have so and so need, so they will help me out to the best of their ability.
Yeah, same for me, Anindya, is I mean, all the best for your career. I think we've got a lot from you in terms of insights on, especially for some viewers, how do they enter IIMs? How does IIM life help? And how does a career after IIM start off? So we've got a lot from you, especially very, very good insights from you, and wish you all the best from my part. And like Vic said, yeah, we are always there. As a tribe, we are all IIM people. So yeah.